station, live from the Comcast Business Studios. 97.5, The Fanatic. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas. This is Kincade and Salciunas. 97.5, The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
The Eagles play a game on Sunday, but we're kind of all on the same page about this one. So, instead of diving too deep into Eagles-Panthers, where the line is 12.5, how about we dive a little bit deeper into Eagles-Lions, which comes your way January 26th. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
There's only one question left, and it's whether the NFC Championship game will be held in Philadelphia or Detroit.
I'm telling you right now, this team is the best team in the NFC.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good football Friday, Philadelphia. Andrew Salciunas alongside my man John Kincade. Johnny, good morning. We made it through another week.
We did. 4 hours and 15 minutes of sleep, and I'm not bouncing off the walls happy like I've been all week long.
Well, it's interesting. You heard in the open there, I say the only question now is the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia or in Detroit? And then you end it by saying it is clear that the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. So,
and I believe they are.
The Eagles play the Panthers on Sunday. And look, we'll talk about the game. Our man Andrew DiCecco will join us for the entire 8 o'clock hour today. We hope to be speaking with Mike Kay, who covers the Panthers. Used to cover the Eagles.
Sure.
He covers the Panthers now. He'll probably be joining us around 9:30 today. So we will talk Eagles-Panthers. But last night, the Lions beat the Green Bay Packers 34-31, a game-winning field goal by Bates, who's been having a great season, only one missed field goal as a rookie. So he's been having a good season. And the Lions win again, 34 points. Obviously, the defense allows 31 for Detroit, but the Lions handle their business again, and it comes down to the wire, and they're, now, 12-1.
12-1, 8-1 in the NFC.
Like, they're just winning. So, before we start getting into the 2-seed discussion,
sure.
Last night, you said you're not jumping around as much as normal.
No, because I do realize that it's a conversation that I had yesterday with some friends. The best team doesn't always win. And I saw things last night that says to me the Eagles could be fine in the matchup. And I saw some things last night that made me say if the Eagles have to go to Detroit, it could be a big problem. So it's like I'm sitting here today like a Libra, with the scales going up and down and trying to figure out where I stand on it. But last night was a bit disconcerting.
Okay,
As an Eagles fan, there's reason that last night should give you a little bit of an uneasy feeling.
Well, so let's unpack this. And I would like to hear what made you uneasy. Obviously, the Lions win again. They're 12-1, but I haven't gone as far as booking reservations yet in New Orleans, right? If they get to the NFC Championship game, let's go. Like, sign me up. I would obviously want the Eagles to win, hope the Eagles win.
Absolutely.
But if you tell me the Eagles are playing the NFC Championship game, either in Philadelphia or in Detroit, hey, this season's been a success, especially after what we saw happen last year, how the season started off, the 2-2 record, the bye week, the weird moments in the Cleveland Browns game, and it didn't look pretty on the field, and then obviously the coach had his meltdown. If you told me that they got to the NFC Championship game, I would be thrilled by that. So I'm not coming in here. Like, you're Mr. Positive. I've never seen you down like this. You seem down today almost. Maybe it might be the lack of sleep, but you just...
That could be a little bit.
It's Friday, brother. Like, it's football Friday. I can't wait for Eagles-Panthers. It's going to be a feet-up kind of game.
I hope.
It's going to be great, but you're a little down today. What's going on, Johnny?
Mainly because of the fact that what's bothering me a little bit is I think people are delusional.
What do you mean?
Oh, the Eagles, it doesn't matter where they play that game. They play that game here, play that game in Detroit, Eagles are winning that game. I think people are nuts and arrogant and borderline ridiculous.
Fans are supposed to be arrogant.
No. You can be a fan. You can be the best fan in the world and be objective. You can be the greatest fan I consider myself a great Eagles fan, and I can still be objective. and I can look at things objectively. And if someone says to me, the NFC title game is in Philly, it is a fait accompli in my mind that this team, because I think these two teams are pretty tight. But if you look at what goes on in Detroit and you think, oh, home field doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if the game's being played in Detroit. It matters.
Yeah, but
silent count matters.
I would say Baltimore is a tough place to play.
No.
No.
Compared to playing in a dome in Detroit.
What did you see last night that scared you so much?
I'm worried for John. It's a Friday, holiday season. 'Tis the season to be jolly. And John's like, yeah, jolly.
No,
jolly
I'm not doing. No, what I'm doing is that I look at it as that is a team that is incredibly resilient.
Yes.
And whenever they face a challenge, they didn't gag it like the Falcon game. That was the Falcon game all over last night. It was like the exact game. Same type of game, just more high scoring. And when it mattered, they got the deal done.
Yeah, but the Eagles, I look at them totally different than the team that I saw against Atlanta. And I'm not shocked that the Lions won yesterday. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think you're worried that you're not going to get your GW Fins.
Well, I am, but I mean,
I think that's your biggest issue right now.
No, it's a whole nother. It is the look. I still believe, and I've said it since the summer.
I know you have.
They're going to be in the NFC title game. But last night, I heard people going, "Yep, man, Eagles will beat both these teams," and I'm like, dude, there's a lot of things, and I made a list, like the naughty and nice list. There's things that made me say Lions are vulnerable, and there's things that made me say the Eagles do not want to play that game in Detroit.
Okay, man, we gotta pick them up today.
Yep. Look. I'm just being objective.
We always talk about it. We don't do the show before the show.
We do not.
I had no idea you were coming out with this. I'm not saying opinion. These feelings.
These are absolute feelings.
Like, I feel like you need a hug, and I kind of want to hug you because you got the comfy sweatshirt on today.
It is comfy. They're feelings based in fact. They're not feelings based in feelings. They're feelings based in real facts. But again, I found things last night that made me go, yeah, Eagles would look good in a matchup with the Lions.
Well, I saw Goff throw a horrible interception yesterday.
Which, by the way, I told you guys yesterday, I believe it. I still believe it, that Jalen Hurts of the four top quarterbacks of the top four seeds in the NFL is the least likely to throw an interception in a big moment of a game in the playoffs.
I saw Montgomery and Gibbs look human in the backfield. The Packers
they looked human.
Montgomery only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Gibbs was under 3.
Sure.
And you know me with the Jahmyr Gibbs betting the over and rushing this year. That he did nothing. Yes, he obviously did good out of the backfield, scored a touchdown with that on that beautiful play in the red zone. But other than that, I mean, the Lions scored 34 points. Their defense gave up 31 because they're banged up.
Their defense.
They're not necessarily going to get healthy going into the playoffs.
Their defense was harassing Jordan Love.
They were.
And still, though, there's vulnerability on that defense for this Eagles offense. But they're a team they got 14 guys on IR. And they continue to find ways to win against the NFL's best team.
Yeah, it's impressive.
There are 6 wins that they have, where I believe the Eagles have 2 that are comparable. Maybe 7 for the Lions. So to me, it's been the last 2 weeks that have said to me, yep, look at the Eagles. They check 2 major boxes.
Yeah, they absolutely
this Lions team, though vulnerable in the defense, is exactly where one of the things that I put in the nice list. That's where I look at the Lions and go, yeah, okay, this Eagles offense should have an easier time of it.
They should.
Because of much easier than they would have had if they played in September.
And, John, I told you, if they beat the Rams and handled their way the way that they did handle themselves against the Rams, that I would put them on the same tier as the Lions because Jared Goff and Matt Stafford, very comparable in terms of lack of mobility. Obviously, Matt Stafford has a stronger arm, and Jared Goff is having a better season. But they're kind of like statues back there. Kyron Williams, they slowed him down. I imagine they could slow down Gibbs and Montgomery like they slowed down Derrick Henry. And then the receiving core, I saw them keep Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp at bay. Why can't they do that against Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams?
Because I don't believe when you're playing Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua that you had the same double threats in the running game. I mean, this is the most complete team you have to shut down, and I think that includes the Eagles.
Then what about the Ravens last week? They shut down Lamar, Derrick Henry.
They did.
Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews.
They did.
Rashad Bateman.
I don't consider the Ravens the Lions.
No, I
just
understand,
don't.
but
I don't. No, but I mean, I don't. And as far as Baltimore, I don't consider playing in Baltimore, playing in Detroit in that dome.
Okay.
That place was, as they said, it was an airplane taking off.
I heard Al Michaels
They were talking
say
about
yeah.
that. The sound meter in the stadium was showing them an airplane taking off, while every single time it got exciting.
Well, if there's any
any
quarterback that could probably keep himself calm in a building like that, it's probably Jalen Hurts.
It's communication.
That guy's not human.
Okay, I don't believe the Eagles have faced an environment like that all year.
Maybe not this
Not
year.
even close. Not even close to that.
Maybe New Orleans because they were riding high, and we know how loud the stadium,
New Orleans
Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, it wasn't that kind. And there were tons of Eagles fans too,
of course.
taking over. Like the Eagles fans won't take over Ford Field.
No,
there will be an Eagles presence. They will not take over
they
that
won't
stadium.
Take over.
That city is bizarre the way right now how they're feeling about their team.
All right,
and again, by the way, just to make you feel better, the nice list is longer than the naughty list.
Right.
But the naughty list gave me reason for concern because I believe this is a team. They have the look, and if it was a Philly team, we'd say it the same way. They have the look of a team that won't be denied.
Yes, and you see that. Like you just see them keep.
They are so
keep
beaten
on
up.
winning.
They have 2017 Eagles written all over them because they are more beaten up.
Next man up.
They are more beaten up than the 2017 Eagles, and they continue to roll.
So our question today, and again, we don't do the show before the show. I just jot down the show sheet, and then we pop on the air.
This is why we don't do the show.
The question is, how are you feeling about the Eagles matching up with the Lions in a conference championship game? And at this point, it'll be more likely in Detroit. Like, how are you feeling with the Eagles matching up with the Detroit Lions? And I don't know.
I'm flipping a coin.
I have not, I don't feel any different today, other than, all right, pack your bags, go to Detroit. Like, that's the only thing I feel different about today is that it's going to be in Detroit, and the chances of it being in Philadelphia are very, very slim.
You need 7 things to happen.
Right. Very slim.
So, I mean, you need 7 things to happen. Probability would tell you what Connor just said.
Yeah.
It's probably
it's going to be in Detroit if the two teams face off. And
but it's
if
not
the two
all
teams
bad.
face off, I think they match up really well. They're very similar. Offensive lines are their strengths. Running game is their strength. Game manager, quarterback that tries to do as much as they can to not make mistakes. And Jalen Hurts makes less mistakes than Jared Goff. And then the defense, honestly, the Eagles get the leg up because of all the injuries to the Lions. If we're going full roster, it's still the Lions because Aiden Hutchinson's a freak, but they don't have Aiden Hutchinson.
The Lions defense right now, I don't believe, sniffs the Eagles.
No, it does not.
And that's part of my nice list.
Right.
Is that the Lions defense is still playing fairly well. They gave up 31 last night, and they played fairly well at times. The Eagles defense is playing on an entirely different sphere. That's on the nice list.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All
Connor,
right.
you don't look like you are in least bit.
I think Connor's on my page. It's like, it's another day.
I haven't heard anything from you that we didn't already know about the Detroit Lions, so I don't understand how we got to this point.
Because what I heard, as part of it was, as I said, is what I heard yesterday on this radio station. Numerous times. Callers, even some of our hosts, doesn't matter where the game's played. Eagles will beat them. Doesn't matter where the game's played. That is such a ridiculous take. That is, to me, a ridiculous take. It doesn't matter where they play. They could play in the parking lot. They could play in Detroit. They could play in Philly. Eagles are better than the Lions. You cannot say that.
Okay, but there was a large percentage chance that Detroit was going to be the 1 seed.
They were, absolutely was. That's why there's a complete difference to me. I was just doing it for Andrew. You're saying what's your? I'm flipping a coin. I'm flipping a coin.
I don't even have a coin.
If it's I don't carry coins. I hate them. I give them to my wife all the time. I put them on the counter and put them on. If the Lions and the Eagles meet in the NFC title game, if the game is played here, pack your bags. If the game's played in Detroit, flip a coin.
Yeah, but we were there already.
I don't know that I was about the game being played in Detroit because I hadn't shared it. That to me is a huge X factor.
I think it's going to be difficult regardless of where they play. I think it's.
Do you think it's the same game?
Honestly, dude, I think it's the two best teams. I think it's the two best teams in the NFL facing off against one another. Because the Chiefs, I'm always afraid of the Chiefs, as we've had this conversation numerous times, but they don't look like they're playing the way the Eagles and Lions are. And the Bills, we'll see what the Bills do.
Here's what I tell you about that. And I get what you're saying. I don't buy it.
Yeah, but the Lions.
Jared Goff is a top 3 quarterback in Detroit since he's been the Lions quarterback.
Correct.
He is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. When he is not playing in Detroit, he's like 18th.
Yeah, but David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs are still running in January outside.
But the guy who touches the ball every time, he is ridiculous in Detroit.
Okay.
When he's on the road, he is below average. He's below the average quarterback. That changes your chances to win exponentially.
But, I need this mental breakdown of how you got here from the guy who booked a reservation for dinner in
last
New Orleans.
week.
Last week.
Last week, you booked reservations.
Wait a minute. That is what did I say to you when I did it? That's a positive affirmation. Speak things into existence. That is something that is an affirmation. Put it in your head. Feel good about it. Plus, dudes, you don't get into GW Fins unless you have
Today's speaking into existence. Today's speaking into the Eagles are going to beat the Lions.
We're going to be sitting next to, I don't know who it'll be. Who is that actress that you like so much? Selma Hayek.
Oh yeah, what's
if
up?
she's down at the Super Bowl, she may be there. I told you, Rebecca Romaine flashed me at a New Orleans Super Bowl.
That sounds nice.
That Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, Rebecca Romaine was asking for the beads, and guess what? I would have went and bought more. Look, these kind of things happen in New Orleans.
I like a romaine.
It's a positive. I do like a
More
romaine.
of an iceberg.
No, I don't like the iceberg. Don't want that. No, but I'm just saying it is. And again, my good list about playing the Lions is longer. But it's the first time that I've done it. I didn't do it till last night. The list is absolutely tilted slightly in the Eagles' favor. When I say slightly, like 60-40, where I feel better about the Eagles than I feel about the Lions. But playing in Detroit, man, it's a home field advantage. It does matter.
This is a fascinating turn of events. So at 610-632-0975, how are you feeling about the Eagles matching up with the Lions in a conference championship game that will most likely be in Detroit? Let's just say
it looks that way.
It's going to be in Detroit. Let's just, for conversation's sake, it's in Detroit. Eagles, Lions, NFC championship game at Ford Field. That's question number one. Question number two. Let's talk about yesterday's game a little bit. So in case people went to bed, unlike us lunatics watching Lions-Packers.
I wanted to. After the Flyers loss, I wanted to.
So last night, the Lions won 34-31. As I mentioned in the open, it was a game-winning field goal for the Lions in order to win by Jake Bates, excuse me. Who's Jesse Bates?
Jesse Bates
tight end.
tight end.
Yeah, he plays.
Cowboy.
Yeah, he
plays.
He plays in the NFL.
Or is it
maybe at some point Steeler? Maybe?
Steeler, maybe? I don't know.
So before that field goal happened,
okay,
the Detroit Lions had a 4th and 1. 4th and 1, tie football game. Of course, a lot of people were thinking, all right, go for it, depending on where you're out in the field, or kick the game-winning field goal. That 4th and 1 took place on the Green Bay 21-yard line. If Nick Sirianni made that decision last night, I think we may have lost our minds.
No, we would have.
Now, it worked for the Lions. If it didn't, ball game. The Packers start the ball in the red zone. It's game over. The Packers will win that football game. The Lions go for it, 4th and 1.
No.
Oh, no, sorry.
No, they would have had to have gone 30 yards.
They would have gone 30 yards.
They would have had to go 35 yards,
Correct.
probably.
But instead of just kicking the field goal at that point, they run for the first down to bleed more clock. And then they kick the game-winning field goal.
He's nuts.
He's nuts,
He
right?
is nuts.
Like,
yes.
he's crazy. And if Sirianni did it, we'd go nuts.
We would, and that's why it's so funny is I saw people on yesterday, people who do follow me, that came up on my timeline going, see, this is where Dan Campbell gets credit for being aggressive. If Nick Sirianni did this, Philly sports media would be all over him. And I literally, since they popped up on my timeline and they follow me, I said, wrong. I've already tweeted it. If this was Nick Sirianni, we'd lose our minds.
We would lose our minds.
And by the way, deservingly so.
That was a
we would lose our
ridiculous
minds.
decision. And yes, it worked out.
It's what he does.
But that doesn't, I'm sorry, sometimes we can't do the good decision because it worked, or bad decision because it didn't work. That was a crazy decision made by Dan Campbell yesterday, and I get it. He has faith in his guys and all that kind of stuff. I understand it. So I want to ask this question. Now, it's not whether or not you would have made that decision, but what do you want out of your head coach? Dan Campbell is probably the most aggressive head coach in the NFL. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but that's just a guess that he's the most aggressive coach in the NFL.
Right. No, he is the most aggressive.
Okay. Do people like that? I'm curious. What do you want out of your head coach when it comes to in-game decision-making like that? Uber aggressive where it could literally kill your chances of winning a football game, but if it works, you're going to win the football game and not give the Packers a chance? Or more of a conservative approach? Love to hear from you on any of our topics today. 610-632-0975. Coming up next, I read an article this morning about the 3 reasons why the Lions are the best team in the NFL. So what I want to do is go through those reasonings.
See if they're real.
And see how the Eagles compare to them. So we'll do that next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
An easy plan for the Eagles. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by your local PJ Wellahans. Enjoy fall happy hours with friends with $3 domestic beers and $5 wings every day at 3 p.m. at PJ's. Everybody loves PJ's. The Eagles are set for their matchup with the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, a 1 p.m. kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field. A home game against one of the lesser teams of football. Well, seems like it could be an easy task for the Birds. And David Newton, who covers the Panthers for ESPN, joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday and said the formula is simple for the Eagles to find a win.
Well, if the Eagles do what they do best, and that's run the ball, I think it should be an easy victory. The Panthers haven't stopped the run against anybody.
And the Eagles aren't just anybody, and neither is Saquon Barkley. So is it as simple as just run the ball and find a win? Well, could be. And the Birds injury report is also looking more manageable. Darius Slay and Devontae Smith were both full participants in practice yesterday. Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, and Dallas Goedert all did not practice. The Lions took down the Packers last night, making the Eagles' path to the 1 seed significantly more difficult, so we'll keep an eye on that, but that could be in the books. The Flyers fell to the Florida Panthers 7-5 last night in a high-scoring affair. Matvei Michkov did have 3 assists in the game. The Sixers take on the Orlando Magic tonight at 7 p.m. at the Wells Fargo Center. You can hear that game live here, down in Orlando. That game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Andrew DiCecco of Inside the Birds will join us for the 8 a.m. hour. Kevin Negandhi of ESPN at 9 a.m. This update's also brought to you by Indeed.com. Go ahead and check their hiring process, making it work for you. Indeed.com/credit. I'm Connor Thomas for 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
This team just keeps rolling along.
Kincade Salciunas on this football Friday. Eagles taking on the Panthers this Sunday, and we're not going to totally overlook the Panthers game. We will talk about it with our man Andrew DiCecco, and we'll give picks on the game and everything. But let's face it, we watched the Lions beat the Packers last night, and that was the game that we were going to all keep an eye on, because if the Packers were able to win, which, again, it was tied until the final seconds when the Lions won it with a game-winning field goal.
They had an opportunity, excuse me.
If the Packers won, then the 1 seed was up for grabs with the Eagles. Now that the Packers lost and the Lions win, very, very slim chance that the Eagles would be hosting the NFC Championship game. So for conversation purposes, let's just say Eagles-Lions, January 26th in Detroit. So how are we feeling about the Eagles matching up with the Lions now that you all had a chance? I don't know if anybody made it all 4 quarters, but if you had a chance to watch the Lions by themselves yesterday, you had a chance to study that team, see what they're good at, see what they're not so good at. How do you feel about the Eagles matching up with the Lions? Now, there is an article from Bucky Brooks.
I like Bucky.
I think he does a great job, but he also writes for Fox.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so he's switched affiliations.
No, I think he still does NFL Network.
Oh, okay, good.
But he writes for Fox.
Sure.
Because Schrager does that.
Right. Oh, Peter
Schrager does
the
NFL Network Good Morning Football, but then writes for Fox.
Okay.
So he wrote an article. The Lions are the best team in the NFL. 3 principles behind their success. Now, we can agree or disagree with his principles, but what I want to also find out is how do the Eagles compare to these 3 principles? His first one is about the head coach. Now, not necessarily the decision-making, but the fact that he is a, quote, leader of men. And the first sentence that he writes, and I get where he's coming from, is at a time when the football world promoted the hottest offensive or defensive coordinator as a top head coaching candidate, the Lions chose a former NFL player without coordinator experience to guide the franchise out of the wilderness. Now, he's not saying that Dan Campbell is calling plays
on
offense or defense.
He is the epitome of the CEO head coach.
Right. And that is what Nick Sirianni is trying to do. Like, he still meddled in the offense early on. He still, last year, was the whole Brian Johnson fiasco. Like, I don't know exactly how much he has since stepped back. You've talked about how he's a part of the scripted play, which he should be. He's the head coach of the football team.
We had that earlier in the week. An analyst, major NFL analyst, told me flat out, Nick Sirianni's involved in the choosing of the scripted plays, and then once the scripted plays are over, Kellen Moore takes over. That doesn't mean that Nick Sirianni doesn't have input to be able to
go for it on fourth down.
Go for it here, run it here. But the play call itself, that falls to Kellen Moore after the script.
Right.
So there it is.
And so he continues writing about how Dan Campbell brought a certain mentality to the team, a toughness mentality. And look, let's face it.
He was mocked when he got hired.
He did. The biting kneecaps. I made fun of him for it.
I thought he sounded like a mental case.
I thought it was way too macho man mentality.
Yep.
But you know what? It's working for them. And the thing that I respect about Detroit, and this is one of the things that really bothered me with the Eagles earlier in the season, was the identity thing. You know what the Lions are. They don't hide it. We have David Montgomery. We drafted Jahmyr Gibbs when we already had Montgomery and DeAndre Swift. We want to be a run-first team, which will help our quarterback. We're going to have beasts on the offensive line, and we're going to have a ferocious defense. Like, who Dan Campbell is embodies what the team is, too.
Does. Yeah, and what they've done is not only he said it from the day he was hired. He talked about what he was going to build. He did the old public speaking thing where you're supposed to tell them what you're going to show them, tell them what you showed them.
Right.
And he did that. He has absolutely spoken into existence, like G.W. Finns. He has spoken it into existence that the Detroit Lions have become the franchise that he envisioned them to be.
So Sirianni, I don't think is there with that. I know he's trying to now portray the toughness and physical, nature of this football team. It just took a while to get there. But in terms of the CEO, coach, leader of men, I say Sirianni does have that.
The leader of men part?
Yeah.
He absolutely has.
And that's what...
The CEO stuff? No. Because Dan Campbell stays... They did a feature, I don't know how much you watch of the Amazon stuff. Dan Campbell's hands off.
Right.
Nick Sirianni's not.
Okay.
Nick Sirianni inserts himself into stuff because it's almost like he has to show everybody that he's doing something. Dan Campbell's like the exact opposite. His is culture. energy,
be tough,
direction,
Going
toughness.
for it on fourth down was dumb.
Yes, believe me, I thought it was dumb. Yeah, but wait, we have our own dumb play call. Dumb decision maker.
We do.
We saw him in one game make 6 that I disagreed with 3 of them, I believe.
But point number 1, pick a leader of men as the head coach. I think Nick Sirianni is that leader of men.
I think he's a leader of men.
We can have the conversation about involvement later on.
He's just a different kind of leader.
Yes, absolutely.
Whereas Dan Campbell will punch a wall to fire you up, Nick Sirianni will plant a flower.
Yeah.
And
Nick Sirianni is...
they both work.
Nick Sirianni's Ted Lasso.
We all fertilize.
He's Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
He's Ted Lasso, whereas, it's a different thing with Dan Campbell.
All right.
He's the ex-player. I mean, real ex-player.
Yes, real ex-player. He
That
played in the
is
NFL.
the ex-player.
Point number 2 from Bucky Brooks. Transform top picks into blue-chip players. He mentions
done that.
Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Terry and Arnold, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. Well, the Eagles are doing that right now.
And I don't believe that Dan Campbell is the guy that's necessarily doing that because he's very hands-off with his coordinators.
Correct.
So
But
I don't know. So I don't know how anybody could give him credit over that and not give the same credit to what Nick Sirianni's doing.
Well, I don't even think it's a Sirianni thing. I think it's an organizational thing.
Well, if you're saying
talking
he's the
about
best, yeah, but he says he's the best coach in football, right?
Right. No, that was point 1.
But the
Point
article is the best team in
Point
football.
2
Okay, right.
is about the organization
Right, and they're doing
drafting
that.
blue chip or drafting top talent and turning them into
the Eagles are doing that just as well.
Yeah, with the Georgia Bulldogs.
If not better.
Yeah.
If not better.
And then the third point that Bucky Brooks makes here is build up and support the franchise quarterback. Are the Eagles not doing that?
They've done it.
And a lot of his explanation is how they've relied on the run, game manager, make Jared Goff's life a little bit easier, which is exactly what the Eagles are doing with Nick Sirianni or with Jalen Hurts. So when I read this article where Bucky Brooks gives his 3 reasons why the Lions are the best team in football, I can make the case that the Eagles are doing all those 3 things.
Could you substitute in the story Eagles for Lions every time the Lions are mentioned?
Yes.
Then there it is. And I believe you could. Sounds like you could. If those are his points, and I respect his writing a lot. I like his stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's talking about the Eagles.
Does that make you feel a little bit better?
No, I mean I don't feel bad.
Well, you brought us
But
down.
I absolutely feel I don't want to bring you down, but I'm never going to blow sunshine up your skirt. I'm going to tell you what I feel.
I'm wearing a skirt.
You know, I'm
today.
going to tell
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday's attire.
Some people are saying Johnny Kincade.
But they say,
I'm not.
We went from
No,
Coward Thomas to Johnny Kincade.
Considering that nobody was with me in July, they can all kiss my hiney.
Listen, I'm not saying
Nobody
Some
was
people
with
are
me.
saying it.
Nobody was with me in July when I said you guys had plans. NFC title weekend. I was being told that I was too optimistic. Oh, what was I thinking? I'm wearing Eagles-colored glasses. So anybody who would call and penny paint me that way can kiss my behind.
It's just weird that the line is drawn so quickly, so close to where you were so confident months ago.
No, but I was so. No, I'm confident they're going to be in the NFC title.
No, he
game.
still has the NFC title.
I'm right there where they're going to be.
I know, but like, it's.
I'm still confident. I'm still 100% as confident that I'm there.
No, I'm not saying that. But the fact that the line is right on the other side of that game, if they have to play it in
if
Detroit.
they play it in Detroit, you can flip a coin.
You called this months ago, and you watched the team go 10-2
Yep.
through their first 12 games,
Yep.
have one of the best offenses in football, one of the best defenses in football, play well above expectations when we see the way they got here. And now it's if they go on Detroit, we're flipping a coin.
I think they have played well above expectations defensively, not offensively.
Different
I think they have played below my expectations offensively.
Well, Saquon hasn't. I think
No,
we just expected-
Saquon's great. He's an individual.
They're doing exactly what I want them to do.
I would put the Eagles I thought the Eagles would be a top 3 or 4 offense. They are not.
Well, they're what, top 7 now?
They're top 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
And guess
they're
what?
there.
After the Panthers game, they might be.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
they
right.
might-
Yeah,
no,
that's
it'll
right.
come up. But remember, when you get into week 13, it's harder to make those averages, jump.
That's
as
true.
much. But
True.
look, I think the Eagles' offense has underachieved what I expected. I think it really has. The passing game is certainly not what I expected.
That's fair.
Our passing game is not dynamic. Our offense is the worst in the NFL after the first quarter. And when you watch that Detroit team, it's amazing to see that the scripted plays, how often they can lead other teams to come out and look like they practiced all week. Detroit is exceptional.
But then the next 2 drives, they punted.
They did.
Yeah.
They absolutely did.
So the Eagles
but
will punt the first drive and then score 2 touchdowns.
I think they went on a 12-play drive, I think, or something like that.
It was a 15-play, 76-yard drive for a
They literally
touchdown.
ran their script.
But then they went 3 and out the next drive.
No, that's fine.
Whereas
Because
Kellen Moore goes, let's punt first,
No.
and then I'll score touchdowns.
Smart strategy.
Worst team in the first quarter is going to hurt you at some point.
All right, coming up next, the people are ready to talk about
Let's
this.
do it.
How did last night's game impact how you feel about the Eagles matching up with the Lions in the NFC Championship game? 610-632-0975. What do you want out of your head coach? We saw Dan Campbell make another aggressive decision yesterday that paid out. But if Nick Sirianni did it, I'd be screaming at my TV in real time. So we'll get to some reaction coming up next. Also, what can Saquon Barkley do this Sunday that will make people happy?
Oh, it's going to make you smile.
John Kincade will tll you about that next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Bill Colarulo.
He is a very good coach.
in a second. We've been talking about the Lions game last night. And after watching it, how do you feel about the Eagles matching up with the Detroit Lions in what will be an NFC Championship game, most likely in Detroit? But before we continue diving deeper into that, Johnny, what could Saquon Barkley do this Sunday? Because we do want to talk a little bit about Eagles-Panthers before we start talking fully about the NFC Championship game. But let's face it, 12.5-point favorites.
Okay, I got 3 numbers that I think are potentially in play. 2 of them are absolutely in play. The third number is probably not.
Okay.
But there's 6 numbers you're going to watch for Saquon Barkley the rest of this season. 2 of them, I believe, could be hit this weekend. One of them will definitely be 14 yards rushing.
I don't know, man.
Could be within his first 2 carries.
Yes. In the second quarter when they give him the ball.
Saquon Barkley would be second all-time on the Eagles' single-season rushing list when he accumulates 14 yards on Sunday.
That's awesome.
109 yards is the number you're watching for.
And by the way, the first one, Wilbert Montgomery?
Correct? Yeah, Wilbert
Yeah.
Montgomery was second with 15-12. 109 yards rushing. Saquon Barkley will be the Eagles' all-time single-season rushing record holder.
Book it.
With 109 yards.
Yeah, I feel comfortable saying
He passes Shady, who, by the way, I watched some of Shady on TV. He is so rooting for Saquon.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
And so LaShawn McCoy handling it beautifully. Like, he's going to do it if he does it with 109 yards this weekend. Saquon Barkley has done it in 13 games. Shady did it in 16.
That's unreal.
It's wild. The next number that I think could be in reach, it'll probably be for something for next week's show, 234. 234 total yards is what he needs to pass a 2,000 total yard season. Oh my God. He's only 234 yards away in total yards for a 2,000 total yard season. I don't think that one's in play.
Now, that's rushing, receiving.
That's rushing and receiving. He needs 234.
I think the only way that wouldn't be in play is if they rest him.
Well, that's the kind of thing I think we all are sort of leaning, not to spoil it, we're all sort of leaning towards a lopsided game.
Yeah, fourth quarter, they're off.
I'm thinking that we have a Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley fourth quarter. And so I don't think that – I believe that's a number we're going to be talking about. Saquon 2,000 is a number we'll be talking about next week.
Gotcha.
But 234 is that number. By the way, just to give you to you quickly, 385 rushing puts him on 10th place on the all-time list of any season. 501 is 2,000 yards rushing.
He'd be the 9th running back to ever do that.
And 607 total yards for Eric Dickerson's record, which is 120 a week.
Which is possible.
Sure it is.
It's very possible.
But I think last night's game made it far less possible.
Yeah, because you're
last week might not matter.
You might not be playing for the 1 seed.
Correct.
After what we saw last night.
And I do not believe Saquon Barkley would be the guy to go week 18. Hey, I need 134 yards. Let me go for the all-time record. I believe he'd say, let's get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think he's a team
might
guy.
be. All right, 610-632-0975 is the number to climb in. How are we feeling after watching last night? How will the Eagles match up in Detroit in the NFC Championship game? And then the coaching conversation is an interesting one, too. What do you want out of your head coach? The Packers, or the Lions last night, went for it on 4th and 1 on the Green Bay 21. They could have just kicked the field goal there and then said, all right, defense, get the stop.
Like 38 seconds, I believe they would have given Jordan Love.
Instead, they went for it. It worked. They were able to bleed all the clock down.
Almost didn't work.
Almost didn't work. They were able to bleed out the clock and then kick the game-winning field goal as time expired, not giving the Packers a chance to go down the field and to tie it or win it. So, in theory, I get it. But it's the risk-reward thing.
Goff got stepped on that play. It could very well have gone sideways.
And then the Packers could go downfield.
Would have had to go like 30, 35 yards.
Yeah.
To win a game in a dome with a kick.
And then all of a sudden the 1 seed is potentially out of their grasp, and the division, because the Packers are they're 9-3 last night. You know what I mean? Like, they're right behind the Lions, and the Vikings are right behind the Lions too. All right, what do we have on the text line, Mr. Thomas?
All right, so we have people checking in that are a little bit perplexed with John this morning.
Uh-oh.
And Jackie from Manchester was going to lead us off and say, Eagles are great on the road, so I don't think it matters where they play the game. Have faith in this team and what they've shown you so far this year.
I got faith in the team. I just am going to say, if you're saying that It doesn't matter where the game's being played. You can play it in a parking lot. And I was hearing it. I heard it yesterday at least 3 times, and I had Best Show Ever on. I had all the station on all day long. I think people are getting a little too chesty as far as doesn't matter where the game's played. It most certainly matters where the game's played. But Detroit is a completely different team in that dome. Completely. And I think it matters.
But I don't think, and I think you would agree, John, that they could win both.
No, they could.
Either Detroit or Philadelphia. I don't think it's like, oh, my God, season's over.
No.
Don't even bother.
No, not at all. That's why I don't believe that. But I believe it is no better than a coin flip.
All right. Let's go to Chris, who the location is on the road.
Hi, Chris.
What's up, Chris?
Hey, how are you guys?
What's going on,
quickly,
man?
Big fan. Never called you guys, but listening from afar. Very impressed with how you guys go about your talk shows. So
Thanks,
Thank you, buddy.
We
appreciate
try not to do hot take baloney on a daily basis.
I'm excited. I'm pumped. It doesn't matter. I've been to the last NFC Championship game at home. I love it. Nothing better. But I think this is going to be like the brotherly love game between Detroit and Philly, especially. It doesn't matter where it is. But Eagles fans travel so well. I think right now we're what keeps Detroit fans up at night. I think them hearing about us going down there is going to give them something to think about. They hear, the Eagle from afar right now. I think we need to get the negativity out, embrace the underdog mentality like we did a few years back, and really be humble.
Wait a minute, though.
Whoa. The grindstone, go to work.
Chris, I'm with you until you consider it negativity on my part?
No, it comes across like that. Again,
Why?
From afar,
Why? Because it's objective?
Because it's kind of like you're like, no. I'm getting a hint of fear. And
No, it's not a hint of fear.
No,
I'm the guy who told you from July that they'd be in the NFC title game. I've been a believer since the beginning.
Believe that.
But if you're
talking,
talking about playing the NFC title game, if someone tells me it doesn't matter where the game's played, I think they should check themselves. I think they should check themselves in to a mental hospital. It matters. It is going to be a completely different game.
I have a different opinion. I think it doesn't matter right now. I think we're a complete team that embraces each other. I think the culture is amazing. I think that we have an amazing leader right now, and you can see it.
Now,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say all those things that you're saying, and thanks for the call, Chris. We appreciate the kind
Detroit
words.
says the same thing.
It's exactly the same. That's why these two teams match up so well.
That's why it would be a really interesting matchup. But again, if you tell me it doesn't matter where the game's played, if you say I'm just as confident that they'll win the game in Detroit as I am that they'd win the game at the Link, I'm telling you, first of all, if I hooked you to a lie detector, you're lying. You're lying.
It's funny.
You're not telling the truth.
If I closed my eyes and I was listening to Chris's call, I could have been listening to Detroit radio.
No, you could. Because
we got a great culture.
We said it the other day, though. Detroit radio is worried about us.
Yeah, no, that's true.
They are thinking about us.
All right, so coming up next, we're going to reset the show. Now, as down as John may sound today.
And I'm not.
You're not down, but you're not as confident. But you believe there are positives for the 2 seed. You will go through those coming up next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A simple day for Saquon. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update's brought to you by Wawa Holiday Gift Cards. Wawa has a gift card for everyone on your list. The perfect gift for your mail carrier, kids, teachers, and coaches, dog walker, and babysitter. Everyone loves a Wawa gift card. The Eagles are set for their matchup with the Carolina Panthers Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field. And it seems like it could be a simple day for Saquon Barkley, who's already had an outstanding year, a historic year. And David Newton, who covers the Panthers for ESPN, joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday, said the formula is very simple. It surrounds number 26 for the Eagles.
Well, if the Eagles do what they do best, and that's run the ball, I think it should be an easy victory. The Panthers haven't stopped the run against anybody.
And Saquon Barkley is not just anybody. The Birds also got some good injury report news again on Thursday. Darius Slade, Devontae Smith, both full participants. Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, and Dallas Goedert all did not practice. The Lions took down the Packers last night, making the Eagles' path to the 1 seed significantly more difficult. So the focus seems to be on locking down that 2 seed in the NFC. The Flyers fell to the Florida Panthers 7-5 last night, a high-scoring affair. And Matvei Michkov, he did tally 3 assists in the loss. The Sixers will take on the Magic at 7 p.m. tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. You can hear that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. We'll talk to Andrew DiCecco in the 8 a.m. hour, the entire hour. Kevin Negandhi at 9 a.m. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Salciunas 97.5, the Fanatic on this Football Friday. Don't forget, Andrew DiCecco will join us for the entire 8 o'clock hour, as he does most Football Fridays, whenever the Eagles play on Sunday, of course. So we can't wait for that, because Andrew will be able to unpack this Eagles-Panthers game for us. But we're also going to hit him with the topics that we have on hand today,
sure,
which is about the Eagles and Lions potential NFC Championship matchup, which would most likely happen to Detroit after the Lions beat the Packers last night. And after you got a chance to watch the Lions last night, how do you think the Eagles match up with them? You can climb in on the phone line or text line, 610-632-0975. Our other question is whether or what you want out of your head coach. Let's dive into that one, because we haven't really expanded on that one. So, again, if you guys missed it, yesterday the Lions won it with a game-winning field goal. There was about 30 seconds left in the game, and the Lions were 4th and 1 on the Packers 21. So that's a chip shot field goal, especially for their kicker that has one miss all season, and that happened last week. But Dan Campbell then decides to go for it so that he can continue the clock to run. And the theory is, which is exactly how it played out, you take all the clock off. Packers don't have a chance to go downfield to try to tie it or win it.
You still have to kick the field goal.
Yes.
I would feel different if it was, we're not giving the ball back to them. We've already got the lead. We don't have to score.
Right.
I'd feel different about the play call.
Instead, if you get stopped, it's a tie game, and all they need
Correct.
is, like you mentioned, like 30 yards.
Yeah, around 30 yards for and Love had an erratic night, but he had some good moments.
Yeah, he had some good moments.
Ray Dunn's Love is a little misplaced, but it's all right.
Yeah, So what do you want out of your head coach, John?
I want
when it comes to decision making.
How about this? And you should know this well from working with me. The number one thing that I value in people in my life and otherwise is consistency.
And I agree with you on that one.
I want to know that every single day what I can expect of the people in my life.
Well, Dan Campbell's consistent.
Dan Campbell's consistently erratic. That would drive me crazy.
Right, but he's consistent. So
no, he's consistent with
I'm
it.
not shocked that he did it yesterday.
No. I am not either.
So would you rather it be that?
No.
Well, exactly. So then it still goes against your want of consistency.
No, that's why I say I would not want Dan Campbell as my head coach.
Okay.
I wouldn't. That's not saying that Nick Sirianni's not consistent enough for me. I mean, and I admire both men for things that they bring to the job that they do really well. I know this. Nick Sirianni's players love him. I talk to Eagles staff that tells me, that's around the team, that tells me how much this guy is really, really well respected.
Man, you know him from outside of work. What, Icona?
I mean, seriously, when I go to right down at the shore,
yeah,
we go to the same place that the Siriannis went. And I can tell you, when I check in, the people know who I am. I've been there for a while. They go, the Sirianni, I mean, he is the greatest guy.
Which is awesome.
With just the average people that are there on vacation.
Right.
He is not Hollywood. He is not, can you get us some chairs that are away from everybody? He is an everyman, and he treats everybody with respect.
Which I love.
They couldn't speak more glowingly of how great this guy is. And by the way, they do admire, too, the kind of coach, the kind of father he is.
Right.
Like he's on vacation, and he's there. Like he's there being dad.
Right.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, and Connor, there's a lot of these guys, though, that can't turn it off.
Right.
Well, guess what?
They can't turn it off. He does, and I admire the hell out of it.
I might take a guy that can run offensive plays better than the nice guy at Icona.
That's why you have Kellen Moore. That's why Kellen's here. But so you want consistency.
Yeah, I love consistency.
But you want consistency your way.
Oh,
you don't
no question.
Want Dan Campbell's consistency.
No question.
Now, I said, remember earlier this year.
Control freak.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I said earlier this year, Nick Sirianni had an identity crisis.
Well, he did, because he couldn't tell you.
There were some weeks where he wanted to be aggressive. There were some weeks where he didn't want to be aggressive, and it seemed like he was always getting in his own way. Now he's hit a groove right now, which is great. Connor, what would you want out of your head coach? I mean, that was an uber aggressive, reckless decision yesterday that worked. But, man, if it didn't.
It's such a tough question because I didn't dislike that decision by Dan Campbell as much as the average person.
I didn't like it. I hated it.
I was
understood it, but hated it.
I was somewhat okay with it. Because, I don't know, you're at home, you're the better team. You have a situation where you say, if we can't gain, what was it, 2 yards? 1 yard?
No, it was
fourth and one.
Yeah, if we can't gain 1 yard with the running backs that we have and the offensive line that we have, they haven't really stopped us too much all night. We've already scored 31 points. If we give the ball back there, there's maybe a 1% chance that Jordan Love goes down the field if you kick the field goal in that situation. There's a 0% chance that he gets the ball back if we get this first down. So it's...
Yeah, but you still have to score.
Well,
you know what I mean? Is like you still had to score there.
I'd
feel differently if he was just choking the clock out.
Well, yes, but I'm saying, like, if you're kicking that field goal with 1 second left, there's no chance they get the ball back.
Sure.
I don't know. I like a head coach that trusts their players in big situations, that's not afraid to say, because if you've done your job as a head coach, now part of this is the strength of the roster, but I'm assuming here that the conversation about the head coach only happens if you trust the roster, or else we'd be talking about the players.
Right.
If you have as good of a roster as the Eagles have, put the ball in their hands to win the game.
Now,
understand
but it's funny. You say, well, they only had, they had 0 seconds left to try to score, right? The game was over.
Game was over.
But if they got stopped, they had 42 seconds.
Yeah, it was
to
yeah,
just kick a field goal. And that's the thing, like,
kick a field goal and win the game.
It's easy to say great decision because it worked.
I got you.
If it doesn't work, the Packers have, in 42 seconds, we saw remember that Chiefs-Bills game where there was like 8 touchdowns in 2 minutes?
This was
43
the Falcons
seconds is a
game.
lot. Yeah.
This was the Detroit Falcons game, their version of the Falcons-Eagles game last night. It worked for Dan Campbell. It didn't work for It didn't work for Nick Sirianni.
And one ran the ball.
Yeah,
which definitely seems a little bit smarter.
Yeah, a lot smarter.
Because less has to work for
That's
it to
what
work. But, whatever.
I understand though what Connor's saying. Like I understand is that it does give you when you think your head coach is so confident in his players, the players echo it and feel it and feed off.
Right, and like before that game, if you had walked into Dan Campbell's office and said, you have to gain 1 yard with a running play to win this football game, how confident do you feel? He would say 100%.
And here's where, though, earlier in the game, he had a 4th and 1, so I write it down. He had a 4th and 1. They run a play where they literally give the ball to the running back and ask him to get 3.5 yards to get 1. It's 4th and 1. The running back touches the ball 3.5 yards behind the line that they have to get, and he gets stuffed. And I look at that and I go, what the hell are they doing?
Well, they don't have a tush push, man.
Like, what are they doing? Like, how do they? And first of all, how do they not have a tush push with those two?
Because Goff doesn't squat 600 pounds, baby.
Jared Goff with those chicken
what?
legs can't get out there.
I promise you this is that there's a running back that they've got that could absolutely do.
Well, it's amazing what the Ravens are doing.
Yep.
They're doing the tush push with Mark Andrews.
Absolutely.
It's actually kind of ingenious.
It is ingenious.
Last year I said Saquon Barkley should be running it in New York.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you don't do that.
I remember that.
So credit CT on changing the league.
Oh, wow, he just
Changing the league.
CT'd himself.
I'm feeling
Gosh,
myself.
he's giving
That's
himself
a
his own
violation, dude.
And
You
that is.
can't
Stop
CT
it.
yourself.
Violation. Say violation.
Listen, we've talked about this.
Go
I have
on.
carte blanche.
There you go.
All right, so climb in 610-632-0975. Give us a text, Connor. Give us 2 texts. And then I want John, because I said the number 2, to tell us why the 2 seed is good.
Oh.
All right, June from Yard.
That's good.
June
is
from
good.
Yardley will go to
AS.
first.
AS. Good credit to AS for that one.
Doesn't really sound quite the same. Jude from Yardley says, Johnny woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Even with wins, Lions got exposed the last 2 weeks. Our defense is way better. They're not putting up 34 on us. I'm feeling better today than I was yesterday.
Their defense is absolutely not as good as ours. It's not even in right now. I don't even believe it's in the zip code.
Yeah, and the Eagles' defense is better than the Packers.
And again,
Packers' defense.
My point being, if you say, now let's get it specific, if you say that it doesn't matter where the NFC title game is played, you're a liar. You don't believe that. And I swear to you, I want to get my cousin in here who is a expert on the lie detector. And I guarantee you, if I put everybody on it, said, are the Eagles just as likely to win the NFC title game in Detroit as they are at the Link? I guarantee you everybody would come up a liar.
Well, no, but
That's what I'm saying is that's the only thing that I'm feeling is that I thought the 1 seed was really in play.
Yeah,
It was really in play.
I really did. And it right now, you need 7 things to happen. Actually 8.
Right. But it hasn't changed. Like I don't feel any differently today.
Yeah, I think you're taking that expression.
I was dreaming of the 1 seed as being a real reality.
Like, it almost seems like you watched Kawhi hit the Game 7 buzzer beater last night.
No, nobody traveled.
But
Nobody traveled in the
like,
game.
I don't, like, what happened last night, what transpired last night has not changed my feelings about
so
the Eagles.
it doesn't change your feelings when you see a team that is just absolutely relentless, that finds a way to win. Every time you think they're going to lose, they win.
I haven't talked about New Orleans yet. Just get me to the NFC Championship game.
Oh, I'm glad. I mean, look, everybody's welcome on board. The bus was empty in July. There were plenty of seats. Everybody could have joined me. They're now. I'm glad to see everybody pile on board. Grab a seat. You guys have reclining seats.
Hey, this show has talked about the NFC Championship game.
Yes,
you
but
were the leader of the charge.
right. I mean, you guys got reclining seats. Other people jumping on, but Billy Colarulo has a bench seat. I don't know if Mike's there yet. I don't think Mike's there yet. But we save.
I think he's there.
But we save.
I heard him talk about the slow starts and how they don't matter yesterday.
We save a spot.
Confidently.
Mike Missanelli has a spot.
Of course.
And if he wants a window seat, Mike is even he has enough seniority in the market. He gets a window seat or an aisle.
All right. Give us another text there, Connor.
All right, we've got one here. No name on this one.
CT.
CT, that's my initials. This text reads from no name here. That Lions-Packers game made me more confident.
Wow.
No team is putting 34 up on the Eagles. Most we've given up since the bye week was 23 to the Jags because of coaching mistakes that have been fixed by Sirianni. I feel better today.
How much are the Eagles putting up in Detroit? Like if
that's a good question.
To that person, I'd like to know. Give me a number of what you think the Eagles are putting up, considering they are the worst team in the NFL in the first quarter.
25 the floor.
25's the floor.
Absolutely. They're a much better offense than that Green Bay
now,
team.
I would say, now the weird thing is Connor, I said 24, so you and I are on the exact same page.
I said 24 in my head.
You really, is it?
Yep.
Okay, so that's where I am at, too. I actually think they'd put up 24 to 27.
All right, so, I don't see the Lions doing that comfortably. How do you attack this Eagles defense? You can't really run on them the same way.
Well, and that's the thing. So if they're bottling up Montgomery and Gibbs, which we just saw them do that against Derrick Henry of all people last week.
We saw it with Derrick Henry.
You need to see Jared Goff throw the football. Now, Goff did throw the football well yesterday, except for that horrible interception.
That was bad.
He was 32 of 41 for 283 and 3 touchdowns. Jared Goff had a good game yesterday. But other than Xavier McKinney, the Eagles have a better secondary than what Green Bay has.
They absolutely do. I said the Eagles' defense to me is absolutely better.
So if you take away the run and make Goff throw, I got Quinyanamo Bay.
Goff is a top 3 quarterback against every team that he's played. He's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL since he's been a Detroit Lion at home.
Sure, but
is Jalen Hurts going to give us that same level of performance in a big game on the road?
Oh, so now we're doing this because yesterday I brought up the Jalen Hurts concerns and you called those people crazy.
No, I think as we've absolutely seen. I think people who question that they've never seen it are idiotic. That's an idiotic statement to make. But are you sure that you're going to have the better quarterback that day in Detroit?
I don't think it matters.
Okay, because of the defense?
Partially, and also because of Saquon. I don't know. I look at it, and you went on the road this year, and you shut down Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase. You went on the road this year, and you shut down Lamar Jackson. You went on the road this year, and you shut down Matt Stafford with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. So what am I worried about? Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown? Amon-Ra St. Brown is not Randy Moss.
No,
he's
you're
good.
Right. No, you're right. And he was really quiet last night.
Yeah, he was.
I think till the fourth quarter.
They just don't have that guy that I'm oh, wow, I'm worried about this dude.
Every point you make, Connor's incredibly cogent there.
Look at that.
I don't disagree with any of those points. What I disagree with, and as I started with today, is I heard yesterday a lot of it doesn't matter where the game's played. I think that is crazy talk.
I got you. You're taking that expression at face value, right? And I know
I am.
I know you're a big people say, and you have to say what you mean and stuff like that. But when people say that, they're saying the Eagles are the better team.
I think the Eagles are the better team.
That's what they're saying. They're just being chesty.
But the better team doesn't always win. I think
That's fine.
If you put the better team with the home field advantage, I think they win 90% of the time.
Oh, no, not 90% of the time.
I would say they would win 90% of the time. Better team. The better team with home field advantage, I think they're going to win 90% of the time.
In this margin, though, where the Eagles
when you're talking about the best teams in the game, the teams who go to the Super Bowl usually are at home 8-1, 7-2.
So are we in cancel the reservation territory?
No, not at all. But it is still you got to You have to take advantage of. If you're telling me it's just, hey, it's a foregone conclusion. The Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter that where the game's played or otherwise. I just think people are getting a little over their skis.
Okay, that's fair. Now, the 2 seed it's going to happen. All right.
It's the 2 seed, it looks like.
Lions winning yesterday. The chances are very slim for the Eagles to still get the 1
Here's
seed.
what you need to happen. For the Eagles to be the 1 seed, you need to win 5 games. There's 5 of the things that need to happen. Lions must lose twice. That's 2 of the things that happen. And the Vikings must lose once because you're not going to win the tiebreaker with the Vikings.
Right.
So you need 8 things to happen. And just going back to stats class, having 8 probability things have to happen. You got to win 8 things all your way. It's slim.
Yeah, slim.
Slim chance.
So 2 seed. Now, 2 seed, John, I might need you to boost your own spirits up.
Oh, no, this is going to make you feel better.
The
and I
2
promise
seed
you
is a
this.
good thing.
Here's where it could be a really good thing. If I was to say to you, the Eagles open up at home with a home playoff game Saturday night prime time versus the Commanders, or Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock, wild card weekend versus the Commanders at home. You feeling pretty good about it?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, we all are feeling good about that. So if the Eagles advance, they would sit there, especially if they play in the 1 o'clock window on Saturday. They would watch all the other teams play. Do you think this right now it's Seahawks and Falcons are the 3 and the 4? Do you think the Seahawks would beat right now it would be Seahawks-Packers?
I don't think so, actually.
You think Packers would win?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the Falcons would beat the Vikings in Atlanta?
No.
Okay. Well, then that could be a problem.
Okay.
Slightly. No, slightly. Because still, though, Lions would get the Packers. Eagles would get the Vikings.
And they could get it.
I like the Eagles' chances better than the Lions to win at home.
Yeah, the Lions could lose that game. Look
That guy,
at what
right there.
happened. Look at what
right
happened
there.
last night.
So that scenario there, I like the Eagles' chances to advance to the NFC title game with less danger. If the Eagles are playing the Vikings at home and Sam Darnold, I think the Lions have a harder matchup with the Packers. Now, let's play it a different way. Let's say the Seahawks, the Buccaneers win the South, which is what I think is going to happen.
Could happen still, yeah.
Buccaneers win the South. Buccaneers play the Vikings.
Vikings.
You say Vikings.
I think that's a tough game, actually.
Because the
I'll
bottom,
probably say Vikings because they've been consistent. Like
And their run defense is
Okay.
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
Baker doesn't have a
then you're looking at Eagles Vikings and you're saying, and we're all smiling at Eagles Vikings in South Philly.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we're all good about that.
Skull.
If the Seahawks were to win a game at home, or the Cardinals, by the way, it could be the Cardinals. If I put the Cardinals into that game, if the Cardinals played at home versus the Packers, Cardinals winning?
No, I still say Packers. But
Packers.
I think the
You think
Cardinals are.
both?
Cardinals
So
are a
you
good
don't
team.
believe either? You don't believe the NFC West champ?
No, I think
or
it's
the NFC South
I think the
champions winning?
following round is Eagles, Lions, and wild card teams.
Okay, so then you're looking at Vikings right now, and they have a 1.5 game lead in the Packers. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
I think the Lions would have a tougher divisional playoff matchup than the Eagles would.
I like the sound of that.
There is some good news for you today. The 2 seed might suck as far as having to win 3 games, but I think that's a better path.
Hey, and if the Lions get knocked out, NFC Championship game is in South Philadelphia, baby.
You got it.
All right.
Better path.
There you go. Look at that.
Now,
See,
here's what I
John,
worry about.
Speaking of sunshine.
Ray Dunn, though, having coffee with his boyfriend. If the Packers come for the NFC title game, there might be a stalking situation.
He's going birds over love. Come on, man.
I don't know.
All right, coming up next, we've talked a lot about those slow starts for the Eagles offense because, they happen every single week, John. Reuben Frank put together the numbers for the Eagles in the first quarter, and then every quarter thereafter. It's crazy, the differences. You'll hear them next. We'll get to some more of your text messages as well. It's Kincade and Salciunas on this Football Friday, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The path to the 1 seed gets tougher. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update's brought to you by your local PJ Wellahans. Join the club. If you haven't signed up yet, why not? Become a PJ's Pub Club member and enjoy half-price wings every Tuesday, plus earn points for great PJ's rewards. Free to join at PJ's. The Eagles' path to the 1 seed in the NFC got tougher last night as the Lions took down the Green Bay Packers 34-31. The final, a game-winning field goal for the Lions in a tight game. But now the Eagles need a lot of stuff to go their way to track down Detroit for that top seed in the NFC. That's okay. The Eagles will still take care of business themselves, or at least we hope, in an easy matchup against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, a 1 p.m. kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field. And David Newton, who covers the Panthers for ESPN, joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday and talked about how the Eagles should go about attacking the Panthers.
Well, if the Eagles do what they do best, and that's run the ball, I think it should be an easy victory. The Panthers haven't stopped the run against anybody.
They are indeed the worst team in the NFL against the run this year, which seems to make it a simple game plan for the Birds, and the injury report is making that easier as well. Darius Slay, Devontae Smith, both full participants in practice yesterday. The Flyers fell to the Florida Panthers 7-5 last night in a high-scoring affair at the Wells Fargo Center. Matvei Michkov, 3 assists in the game, though. It's good to see the young guys still making things work. Sixers take on the Magic at 7 p.m. at the Wells Fargo Center tonight. Andrew DiCecco will join us for the 8 o'clock hour. Kevin Negandhi at 9 a.m. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
ESPN's Adam Schefter.
Is 7:31 on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Don't forget, coming up at 8 o'clock for the entire hour, our man Andrew DiCecco will join us to talk Eagles, Lions, NFC Championship game. Oh, don't get too ahead of yourself.
Oh, stop.
Come on, it's happening. And, of course, we'll talk about the Eagles-Panthers game that takes place on Sunday. Now, one of the big things, the only thing that the Eagles desperately need to improve, and maybe not desperately, but let's face it, you'd rather not have this problem, and that's the horrible starts.
They're atrocious.
Dead last in the NFL.
Yep.
In total points, obviously points per first quarter. Dead last. And that's something that needs to change. Now, look, they keep on finding ways to win. The offense, once they get past the first quarter or the first drive, they find new life. But it would be better to be tied 7-7 or be up 7-0 as opposed to being down 7-0, after the first quarter. That'd just be nice. It's a bit of a selfish preference. How's that sound?
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
So Reuben Frank wrote an article, The Eagles' Magical Transformation After the First Quarter. It's amazing, John, how different it is. Now, we've talked about it, but we have some numbers to show here. In the first 13 minutes Sunday, the Eagles committed 6 penalties. They committed 2 the rest of the game. In the first 11 minutes, the Eagles allowed 5 plays of 14 or more yards. They allowed 3 the rest of the game, and one of those was against the backups in the final seconds. In the first 11 minutes, the Eagles were outgained by the Ravens 133-2, and they were outscored 9-0. After that, the Eagles outgained the Ravens 236-166 and outscored them 24-3. If you take away the meaningless drive at the end there.
It's 3 weeks in a row, by the way, meaningless points.
Yes. In the first 10 minutes, Derrick Henry ran 6 times for 38 yards. That's 6.3 yards per carry. After that, 13 for 44, which is 3.4. Now, that's just about this past Sunday's game. But through 13 games, the Eagles are averaging an NFL low 1.4 points in the first quarter. They're averaging 25.3 for the rest of the game, which is second highest in the NFL behind, of course, Detroit.
So Detroit starts well.
And they end well.
End well.
They've been outscored 56-17 in the first quarter. But they outscored their 12 opponents 303-162 the rest of the way. Like, it's unbelievable how it just flips.
Okay, that's a beautiful number. That's beautiful.
Their 17 first quarter points through 12 games are the third fewest in franchise history. Now, normally Rube has the years, but I'm going to guess it's like 1940-something and 1950-something. Just a guess when it's, they're running the football and the clock's burning. But it's unbelievable, man, how much of a difference you see early on than the rest of the way. Jalen Hurts, passer rating in the first quarter this year, 82. Rest of the way, 107.5.
Okay, that's
ridiculous.
Oh, no, wait, what is that again?
Jalen Hurts' passer rating in the first quarter this year is 82. If you combine the second and third and fourth quarters of every game this season, 107.5.
Okay, that's ridiculous. I mean, that really is. That's sort of ridiculous. That's wild.
And so, it's the one thing they need to fix.
And the thing is, though, is that, I'm going to ask you right now, is that a Jalen stat? An offensive coach's stat?
I think offensive coach's stat, because I don't think Jalen is saying, hey, coach, we got to get Will Shipley involved. Like, the last game against the Ravens, you got Will Shipley is getting touches in the first opening drive.
Okay.
The Buccaneers game was criminal. As bad as Jalen was in that game, and I understand the injuries with AJ and Devontae and Lane Johnson, with those injuries, why are you throwing downfield to start?
I absolutely understand it, though. But, okay, they're calling passing plays. That we're saying they should run, and they're calling passing plays.
I'm not saying run. But there's some times where it's like, this is stupid. What are we doing here?
And I know you're not. But the problem is this. If they're calling passing plays, are they bad passing plays? Are they passing plays that Jalen couldn't make work?
I don't know. Will Shipley
I think Jalen has
called last week.
I think Jalen has started poorly. And I think part of the problem with the team starting poorly is a Jalen problem.
Could be, but you know what doesn't help?
He was a slow starter.
As Ruben mentioned, 6 penalties in the first quarter.
That's not a bad one either.
Like, because
no, that tells what you're doing is you're being very fair as Rube is.
Yeah.
You're telling the whole story.
If you think about the Packers game to start the season, what was the first play? Saquon slips, and it's 2nd and 15.
And then you had the
fumble,
the second possession,
the fumble,
the bad snap.
Yeah. So like, it's not necessarily just like I don't think it's apples and oranges. I would lean toward coach first, but execution's obviously a bit of a problem as well. I don't know why it's like this. What seems like literally every single week.
Okay, it is. It's a problem. It's been a problem, and to me, I think to absolve, and I don't think you're absolving him.
No.
Probably a bad word. If you are not putting the primary blame, if they call a pass play, it's not like they're terrible pass plays.
Will Shipley had his number called. I don't need Will Shipley.
No. I don't need it either, but it's not like I don't understand why others can make it work every other team in the NFL can make it work.
Connor, are you more player or coach when it comes to this?
Coach, easily.
Right.
Okay, tell us why.
Welcome.
I mean, listen, that's the thing. You see the decisions that they're making to start. Jalen Hurts is very good later on in the game with better play calls, I think, and Saquon Barkley gets more involved later in the game. They seem to go away from Saquon too much too early. I don't know. It is very hard to believe for me that Jalen Hurts is a totally different guy second, third, and fourth quarter, or Saquon Barkley is a totally different guy second, third, and fourth quarter.
Well, he might actually be because his legs
stronger,
are. You're right,
but he's still the same.
Defenses get more tired.
He's still the same running back to me. More likely,
like you're saying, he's the same. He still has the same skill set and everything.
Like there's not a tangible change with those guys from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. But there is a tangible change in the way that the play calling is set up because you have the scripted plays. We know this. So if I have something tangible that I can look at and say, well, scripted plays here, they don't score. Adjustments the rest of the way, they do score. That seems to logically point towards coaching.
Okay. And again, I don't think I can argue with that point of view. I do not agree. I think that a lot of this falls on Jalen.
Now, this is amazing. So I have the quarter-by-quarter breakdown on Pro Football Reference.
Okay.
Let's just do passings to start. So Jalen Hurts in the first quarter this year, we mentioned the 82 rating, and then the 107.5 the rest of the way. 82 rating in the first quarter, 106 in the second, 119 in the third, just 94 in the fourth, but he's handing the football off a lot of times in the fourth quarter because they're leads.
Sure.
Completion percentage, 64.7% to start, jumps up to 69.5 in the second, 66.7 in the third, 70.3 in the fourth. So completion percentage goes up. Here's the big one. In the first quarter this year, Jalen Hurts has taken 10 sacks. Second quarter, he's actually taken more. He's taken 11, but then the second half, only 5. He's only taken 5 sacks total in the third quarter this year, 6 in the fourth.
I'm going to ask you to be objective. Mm-hmm. Have you not frequently this year said, Jalen, get rid of the damn ball?
Yes, definitely.
I think a lot of those are on him. I think a lot of his sacks this year are on him.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Most. Because
you think seriously,
dude,
you
he's
think
doing
most?
blitz protections. And he's got – now, I'll tell you what. It's his first year doing it. Could this be as simple as Jalen Hurts needs time to figure out how the other team is attacking him with the pass rush? Once he figures that out, which may take a quarter, he's much better at picking up the blitz protections. He calls it out better at the line. You have better chances to complete those pass plays. That could be a huge factor as well.
After all the bad shows you've had this week, you're having a great show today.
Appreciate it.
You are you're kicking ass today.
I think I've been good all week, but thank you.
Yeah, it's different on my evaluation. I think that I think that is that might be the greatest point that somebody has pointed out to me in 2 weeks.
Good job,
I never thought of that.
CT,
another one.
CT's really hitting it hard today. Jimmy don't like that. You're doing good, CT.
CT's on fire.
18. Do we got to call you 18 too?
Get ready for the heat check coming up where I say something stupid.
Oh no, it's coming.
Here's the other amazing thing.
It's coming. You got a perfect game going, Connor, and we just talked about it.
The first quarter is also their least amount of yards per carry, 4.48. It jumps up to 5.3 the next quarter. 7.9 per carry in the third quarter.
Least touches for Saquon, too.
And then it dips down to 5.7 in the fourth quarter.
For some reason, they forget they have Saquon Barkley in the first quarter.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, coming up next, we hear from you. And then don't forget, Andrew DiCecco will be joining us coming at 8 o'clock.
Parking across the street and walking
I would not be surprised at all. It is Kincade Salciunas on a Football Friday, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Matvey Michkov.
Back into the corner to Michkov, side of the net. He scores! Matvey
Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic. We got our man Andrew DiCecco in the building. He'll be joining us for the entire 8 o'clock hour. Can't wait for that one. Make sure we do this every single week. If you have any questions for Andrew, feel free to start texting them in now at 610-632-0975. Just make sure you have it labeled as question for Andrew, and Andrew DiCecco will answer them for you. So we got a game on Sunday for the Birds against the Panthers. We'll break it down with Andrew coming up.
When you say a game,
it's going to be fun. How's that sound?
I hope so.
I'm going to enjoy the Eagles beating up on the Panthers. Other than that, the slate this weekend's kind of boring. Browns, Steelers, the Browns are out. Saints, Giants stink. Jets, Dolphins, Jags, Titans. That's just a horrible game. That, like, if you need to torture somebody, and it doesn't matter what year it is, it could be 2024, it could be 1995. Jags, Titans, I'm going to make you watch that game. It's just disgusting. Falcons, Vikings, I guess is okay because Falcons are playing for something.
Yeah, that's still, you're looking at a division championship to be determined.
Raiders, Bucks, Seahawks, Cardinals is a big one for the NFC West.
And Raiders, Bucks is big because, again, Connor scoffs at it. I think you scoff at it, too. You know, the only team to beat the Eagles and the Lions is the Buccaneers.
Yeah. I'll scoff.
And a quarterback who absolutely can dial it up at any given day, can come up with the big game performance.
And Mike Evans is back, and you saw his impact last week. I do not want the Buccaneers. I want the Buccaneers out of the way.
That's recency bias,
By the way, Mike Evans is my new Jahmyr Gibbs bet.
Oh, yeah?
Well, it's back-to-back weeks. It's hit.
Okay.
Until it stops hitting, Mike Evans will be in the pick segment at 9:30.
2 weeks. Can't argue with that.
Dude, I got to keep on going, man. All right, Connor, what do we have on the text line? You can text in or call in at 610-632-0975. By the way, the Monday night game, we talked about this a few weeks ago, is the Bengals-Cowboys game that they couldn't flex out.
Because of the Simpsons.
Because of the Simpsons thing.
That
game is just trash.
No! Couldn't do it.
I think that's perfect because you want a bad game for that Simpsons game, so you're not overly invested.
The only good thing is...
No, because then you might watch the Simpsons thing. I may actually watch some
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not watching. I'm watching for Jamar Chase to hopefully put up 90,000 fantasy points.
I want the Family Guy. When they do the Family Guy week, I am in.
You're in on that one?
Oh, I will watch the entire thing.
All right, what do we got on the text line,
Giggity, giggity.
We got a first-time texter here, so thanks for joining in. And they say fundamental football, defense wins games, offense puts points on the board, and the run sets up the pass. The Eagles have the better defense and an above-average offense than the Lions. Home field advantage, the Eagles would have a 90% chance. A game in Detroit, they still have a 70% chance, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm not that far off of the guy. Or whoever that is. I am at 90% if it's at home, and I'd be it's a coin flip on the road.
You're 90% Eagles would win the game?
Yes.
90?
Jared Goff, there's so much data to look at. Jared Goff outside, Andrew,
Dude, I can't put your brain together.
For his career.
Honestly, you saying Eagles hosting the Lions, 90% chance they win the game is more outrageous than you coming in this morning
saying the NFC title game in Detroit's a coin flip?
Yes.
I think people being that chesty about the NFC title game, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where it's played.
But dude,
is the most ridiculous thing I've heard all week.
That's lock.
Yes, it is lock.
John, a 40% swing?
It is, yes.
Are the Eagles the best team in the NFL on the road?
Because of the fact that Jared Goff is not a factor on the road. He's a negative factor. And there we have 8 seasons to work off of. I mean, it's the numbers are staggering for this guy. So if you get him outside, when he's inside, he's a top 3 quarterback. When you get him outside, he's like, I'm stealing from Fox Sports. Mm-hmm. He's either 18th or 19th. That is a huge, huge difference. And that is why, absolutely, you're playing a completely different quarterback.
No, I understand that.
Like, completely different. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. I'll have a bag packed.
That's amazing.
I'll bring a bag to the press box with me.
A 40% swing for a team that has gone on the road and beaten the bag, like Joe Burrow, the Ravens, the Rams.
How often the Lions lose? How often the Lions lose at home?
I mean, how often do they play the Eagles?
How often do the Lions lose at home? I mean, it's the same thing.
Lose, period.
You're saying about where the Eagles win on the road. It's not the same as winning at Detroit.
When was the last time the Eagles lost to the Lions?
I remember that Thanksgiving that ruined my Thanksgiving. they got beaten. They gave up like 50. And then in the offseason, I saw Matt Stafford at Goldberg's, and Matt Stafford literally goes, I think, what did we put up, 50? And I was like, yo, would you just be quiet?
2019, they lost 27-24.
What was the Thanksgiving
to the Detroit
debacle?
Lions. That was 45-14.
Oh, it was 45.
That was back in 2015.
Yeah, that was the Calvin Johnson
He absolutely
game.
abused.
Yeah.
Yes, and Calvin, I could also potentially run into. It was terrible. That was a bad one for me. Ruined
right.
my Thanksgiving.
So we have Andrew DiCecco for the entire 8 o'clock hour. We have today's headlines at 8:05. Do you have something with Matt LaFleur?
I don't.
Headlines? I'm just seeing this now.
What, well-manicured Matt LaFleur?
Did you see what happened pregame?
No, what? Did he break a nail?
Somebody just tweeted me this. Dante, I want to give Dante Harris a shout out. He tagged
What's
all
up,
of us in
Dante?
it. He said if this was Nick Sirianni, Philly would be killing him. And yes, we would.
What happened?
Before the game started, I don't know if it was pre-national anthem or post, but you know how sometimes fans are on the field and help with the flag?
Okay.
He had to get separated from a Lions fan.
Well, what was the Lions fan doing?
Oh, he was probably saying something.
I guarantee you, yes.
So I'm watching the video.
If I don't know the situation, I'm not
watching from the video. So LaFleur, he's got the headset on. He's walking on the field. He's pointing the guy out, barking at him. This dude in a Deion Branch jersey's walking up to him, and they had to get separated.
That's
Really?
ridiculous.
He's Billy Big Balls is all I will tell you.
Yeah, I'm not going to wait to know the situation.
A referee had to come in?
Like if
No, I don't know
Sirianni
I don't know what the person said to him or otherwise.
We don't know what the people behind the bench
I
in
don't
the
want it
Cleveland
to
game
be.
were saying.
I don't
Nick
want it to
Sirianni.
be. That's his home fans.
Okay,
there is a slight difference.
Johnny, you're reaching on this one. That's
No.
No,
Nick
we
Sirianni
would
did
rip
that. We would
Sirianni.
No,
kill him.
I would rip my head coach. I do want context.
We'd say, where's Big Dom at? He's probably behind the camera.
No, Big Dom's probably looking for a camera shot
Big
instead of
Dom
worrying
has
about
caught 3
instead of
strays
worrying
this
about
week.
it.
He hasn't
Yes.
done anything.
Yeah, you're right, Connor. He doesn't do the job he's hired
So
for.
why has he been mentioned 3 times in the
Where's
show?
Because he doesn't do the job he's hired for.
Where's the Packers version of Big Dom? Where's
No,
he at?
you know what?
Because he's not there either.
You don't even know who. I know who. Guess what? Last night you could see the Detroit Lions version of it. You could see him a lot of times. Every time Dan Campbell was shown.
Well, here's the
but
thing.
you know what? You don't know the guy's
You know what?
name. You don't hear about him because he doesn't make himself the story.
Dan Campbell doesn't need one. I'm not messing with him, dude.
Guess what? Dan Campbell kicked your backside, man.
So yeah, man, you're right, Dante, who tweeted this. If this was Nick Sirianni, Philly would be killing. We would be.
I thought maybe he was a little upset. He was late from his eyebrow waxing. He had to get his waxing.
Now, Mr. can't wear his headphones over his hair.
Oh, my God.
Calling the kettle black right there.
God didn't give me this head of hair to cover it up, baby.
We're just calling it even.
All right, coming up next, it's the 8 o'clock hour, which means on a football Friday, our man Andrew DiCecco joins us. Can't wait to break down Eagles-Panthers. They're going to kill them. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A big day on the ground. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by PayPal. Get exclusive cashback offers in the app, and with the PayPal debit card, stack 5% more in your chosen monthly category on up to $1,000 in purchases. Don't just pay, PayPal. The Eagles could be set up for a big game on the ground when they match up with the Carolina Panthers Sunday, a 1 p.m. kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field. And David Newton, who covers the Panthers for ESPN, brought up the reasoning why it's not just because the Eagles are good on the ground, it's because everyone has been against the Panthers.
Well, if the Eagles do what they do best, and that's run the ball, I think it should be an easy victory. The Panthers haven't stopped the run against anybody.
And Saquon Barkley hasn't been stopped really by anybody, so it seems to be a pretty strong matchup for the Birds' running attack. The injury report is also looking strong for the Birds. Darius Slay, Devontae Smith, both full participants yesterday. Looks like they're going to be able to go on Sunday. Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, Dallas Goedert all did not practice. The Lions took down the Packers last night, making the Eagles' path to the 1 seed significantly more difficult. We'll keep an eye on that, but it seems Detroit has the inside track to that one at this point in the season. The Flyers fell to the Florida Panthers 7-5 last night in a high-scoring affair. Matvei Michkov did tally 3 assists in the game. The Sixers take on the Magic at 7 p.m. tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. You can hear that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And what you can hear live coming up next is Andrew DiCecco joining us for the entire 8 o'clock hour. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Philadelphia 76ers basketball.
Here's a 3 by PG. Good. Paul George way downtown. He drills it.
8 a.m. on this Football Friday, which means for the entire hour now, we are joined by our man from Inside the Birds and all over the place here on 97.5 The Fanatic, Andrew DiCecco. We have today's headlines with Connor Thomas at 8:05. And again, if you have any questions for Andrew, text him in at 610-632-0975. Andrew.
Question for AD.
Yes, that works. Andrew, good morning.
AS, JK, hello. How are you guys?
You're not going to address CT over there?
Oh, yeah, how could I forget? My guy CT, how are you?
What's up, buddy? Over there.
The originator of the initials.
He also
I'm
goes
the first
by
guy to ever go by my initials. It's never happened before.
Why don't you text me that? Tell me that.
So, Andrew, we obviously have a game on Sunday, and I'm going to try not to overlook it as much as possible. We will get into the game with you today. Obviously, we ask about matchups, all that kind of stuff. But let's first start with last night. Lions, they didn't clinch the 1 seed, but let's face it, strong chance they clinch the 1 seed. And if it's not them, it's somebody within the NFC North, I guess. I don't know.
8 things have to happen.
Yeah, the Eagles aren't clinching. There's a strong chance they're not clinching the 1 seed. What did you see out of Lions last night that you took note of for a potential NFC championship matchup between the Eagles and Lions?
Well, they don't go quietly. I think that they showed a lot of fight in that game. Questionable decision-making at the end of the game by Dan Campbell. A lot of gutsy play call to kind of put the game away. I know Nick Sirianni's been, chastised for making similar decisions, but they're really banged up on defense.
Yeah.
The Green Bay were able to move the ball on them with little resistance. So I think, to me, if they're not able to get some key guys back on defense, it's going to be an interesting matchup down the stretch for Detroit, because I don't know if they're going to be able to really stop a whole bunch of these teams that they're going to be facing.
Yeah.
Do you believe that they will get a lot healthier? I mean, look at it. I was trying to see it last night. They were very vague on whether guys are coming back or not.
They're so banged up in so many areas, John, that to expect all of those players to be able to return or be at full strength, I don't think that's very realistic. But I think you're seeing a team like the Eagles, for instance, that are hitting their stride at the right time, where the Lions are sort of hitting that ground where they're winning games, but it's taking a lot. They have to tap into all their resources to get these games, to be able to win these games, and they're really banged up right now, whereas the Eagles, stands for a player or two. They're in pretty good shape in that area.
What you make of the decision? 4th and 1, Lions have the ball. In case you're just tuning in, you've missed us talking about it, or if you went to sleep last night. The Lions had the ball on the Packers' 21-yard line, tie football game, about 41 seconds left. All they need to do to kick the field goal and take the lead. Instead, the Lions decide to go for it, get the first down, and then burn all the clock and then kick the game-winning field goal. But in real time, what was your thought?
What is he doing?
Yeah, me too.
I thought that he overcomplicated it. I would have taken the field goal right then and there when you have the opportunity and not put the game in peril. But, I mean, it panned out for him. But if he makes those curious decision-making in the playoffs, I mean, that could come back to haunt them as early as
last year.
Yeah, I know.
We know our guy can do the same thing. Come on now.
No, come on, man.
Come on. Nick Sirianni sometimes does it 4 or 5 times in one game.
When's the last time?
The Jacksonville game.
Okay, but he's learned since then. And you heard Jalen Hurts. He said he's evolved and grown as a coach.
He didn't learn from the Falcon game. Then he didn't learn in the.
But you just mentioned the Jacksonville Jaguar game. That was a month ago.
I'm saying Falcon game, New Orleans game, Jacksonville game. It is very like he's had more questionable ones this year than Dan Campbell's had.
In a game that was really, the margin for error was so minute against the Baltimore Ravens. Nick Sirianni he coached that game exceptionally.
We thought he had a great time.
Okay, so that was a high leverage coaching situation. So I think a lot of what you're saying there is that it's unfounded. You're expecting it to happen. He hasn't had any coaching blemishes in a month.
He could absolutely dial up. Do you believe we're not going to see another day where we come in and go, what was he thinking? You think it's cleansed from his system?
Well, I mean, you can make that case for any coach, but I think that in terms of egregious decision-making, Nick Sirianni hasn't been the topic of conversation in that area for about a month.
Yeah. He has not been. I'm going to tell you, I still believe it's in him. I hope it doesn't come and bite us.
You can believe it.
But I still believe it's in him.
You can believe it. You have the right.
Yeah, I think it's fair to believe it, but hopefully it just doesn't happen. All right, it is 8:05. Time now for today's headlines with CT.
Oh, jeez.
Today's headlines with Connor
You're
Thomas.
lucky it's Friday. I'll forget about this over the weekend.
We'll have to update that intro.
Now we're putting it in the promo.
All right, we're going to have some fun here, okay? I'm going to need you guys to play a guessing game with me. So we have a great call. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Eric Collins, who calls games for the Charlotte Hornets. And he makes some wild, wild calls. You've probably seen the compilations on social media of him screaming. Here's a great call from last night's game of a major Brandon Miller turnaround three at the buzzer.
Miller.
That was the end of the third quarter. They were playing the New York Knicks. I need you guys to guess the deficit of the game.
I will absolve myself from the conversation because I pay attention to everything in the NBA.
The deficit about him hitting that and how he yells?
Yes. The Hornets were down in the game. How far were they
down? Okay, they were down 22.
Go ahead, Andrew. You guess.
I'm going to say 28.
I forget the exact total, but I know they had 75 points and the Knicks were in the hundreds.
It was 28 on the nose. Andrew DiCecco, basketball guy.
Wow,
he Gus Johnson did.
See,
it's like the over-under on Gus Johnson screaming. The other day was second.
Oh, he lost his voice.
It is the second. They got one first down in the game. And then there was the second first down of the game. It was a great catch. But
that interception.
In the first quarter, it was 0-0 game.
That interception was a big play in the Ohio State-Michigan game, but he lost his voice.
Because all he does is scream about the inconsequential stuff. He screams in the first quarter.
Now, hearing that call reminds me of what must have just been such a hard time for Tom McGinnis during the process.
Oh.
Because he had to, try to still make it sound entertaining when Jarvis Varnado was playing and
Isaiah Cannon,
Furkan Aldemir, not Korkmaz.
Wait a minute, we had two Furkans.
Yeah, we had two Furkans, man.
I even forget about that.
Furkan Aldemir, come on, brother. You know who you're talking to here. Jakar Sampson. Got that one right. You did. Guess the Sixer.
Okay, Mr. List the process players.
There you go.
I actually like the calls that he makes, especially considering it's the Hornets because they're never consequential. But it's just great to hear that energy.
Sure.
I like it. I don't know.
You're down 40.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, this one. Another question that I need you guys to answer here. So the baseball winter meetings start on Monday, December 9th. Do the Philadelphia Phillies make a consequential move by the end of the week next week?
Yes.
Yeah, just because of all the trade talk. There's so much smoke.
I think it'll be more of a signing than a trade.
Okay. What are you thinking? Do you have a player that you have in mind?
I think they realize that they're going to lose in the bullpen, so I think it will be a bullpen arm that will be someone that I think the trades, the groundwork will be laid for whatever trades they're going to do.
I think I think a trade's going to happen.
You do think
because this Bohm to Seattle things. You hear. There's so many players which, by the way, Luis Castillo's a hell of a pitcher, so
he is.
Would love that.
Take it.
To happen.
You think that can happen as early as next week?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're already.
Who do you get as a short? Who do you get to play third?
Bregman.
Yeah, I do
Alex Bregman. Yeah,
I do not want Alex Bregman at that dollar amount.
Now, tell me why.
I absolutely do not, because he's not that kind of player. He's not a player he is not a player that is going
World
to
Series champion.
Yeah, he is on his teams. Yes, his teams won World Series.
He would make the Phillies a better team, and that's the objective.
They are. I don't want another long-term paying for in the back end of a contract where I know this is going to haunt them.
You know that?
Who says it's long term?
We know your track record when you speak in absolutes.
Connor, they're beginning discussions at 6 years.
Okay.
6 years I may even consider.
Talk him down.
You don't like that the Sixers are doing that?
Well, yeah, that's
All
great.
Right, stop it. We're not doing
that. Isn't that great?
We're not doing that.
Hey, it's great,
Not
man.
your segment.
No,
really
no JoJo tonight, guys.
We're going to round out with this.
Shocker.
How are you feeling about the Eagles matching up with the Lions in a conference championship game? And at this point, it'll be more likely in Detroit. How are you feeling with the Eagles matching up with the Detroit Lions?
I feel great about it this morning. I feel awesome about the Eagles matchup with the Lions. I really do, because I don't think there's anything that the Lions do that feels significantly better than what the Baltimore Ravens have been able to do. Now, the Lions do it more consistently. But I watched that team last night, and I said, they don't do anything Derrick Henry can't do on the ground. They don't do anything in the passing game that Lamar Jackson can't do. They don't move the ball the way Lamar Jackson can. Their defense is bad right now because they have a lot of injuries, but Andrew DiCecco already talked about it, that they're not bringing guys back, really. Or if they do, they'll still be kind of banged up. I'm not as worried about the Lions today as I was yesterday before that game happened.
I'm just more the same.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Eagles have the best defense in the NFL. I've said that over these airwaves, and they have the NFL's best offensive line with Saquon Barkley. Those two elements travel. So I think the Eagles can win anywhere. Now, it would be a challenge, but I think the Eagles would be able to beat any team, any place.
So
I like your
John,
confidence.
you had what 90% chance they win if it's in Philly.
Yes.
And it's a coin flip.
Coin flip on the 50-50 on the road.
What are your thoughts on that?
A coin flip in Detroit with the Eagles having the NFL's best defense, having the cheat code that is their offensive line.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley, who's playing at a remarkable, level right now. Those are two things that travel no matter where you go.
No question.
And the Eagles are playing with a ton of confidence, and they're pretty healthy, sans Dallas Goedert and a couple players. I mean, I think you take that, and to say it's a coin flip. I think you're definitely selling the Eagles short there.
Well, scared.
All right, we will see. We're going to see how it plays out.
Yes, we absolutely.
I think so. By that regard, what's the point spread on the NFC title game if it's in Detroit?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Detroit by 2.5.
That's what I would think, too.
That's what I would get. Exact number I was thinking. Like 2.5. So I think that there is going to be some
Birds.
That favors the Eagles
Well, I
by
guess
half
you're
point.
I'm going alternate line.
to.
Birds by 14.
Stop it.
Oh, here we go.
All right, so Andrew, there is a game on Sunday. I know we're focusing so much on Eagles-Lions, and this is why we call the real football guy to come in here, because you know that it's any given Sunday and anything could happen. And the Panthers have been playing better the last couple of weeks. So let me ask you this question: how does a team handle going into a game like this against a weak Panthers team? They're saying all the right things, right? Sirianni's doing the press conference saying, oh, look, they've been playing well the last 4 weeks. You could be humbled really quickly. I saw NBC Sports Philadelphia. It was a great video. It was like a minute and a half of different players within the locker room talking about being up for this game. Mm-hmm. Saying is one thing, actually feeling is the other. So how do you prepare for a game like this where you're supposed to just dismantle this team?
Well, it's a good question, but I think if Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles, the 2024 version, has shown you anything, Andrew, it's that they are going to take a week-by-week approach. No matter the opposition, no matter what the record is, they show up ready to play, and they fixate on the details. And I think the point of emphasis this week, and it really all season, is they're not worried about the opponent. They're worried about what they can do, what they can take away from the previous game, and hone in on that, whether that's tackling, whether that's 4-minute offense, whatever the case may be. So I truly think that they're just so fixated on their details and infatuated with the process that they're not really worried about who's coming into Lincoln Financial Field, where they're going, where they're playing. They're worried about trying to get better and win and go 1-0 every week. So I wouldn't have a whole lot of concern about that.
You get to be in the locker room all the time. Tell us a little bit about the energy and what you've seen, and has anything changed over the course of the season, and what's it like right now?
I wouldn't say anything's really changed, but I would say that you're seeing a lot. It's very close-knit, and almost like a brotherhood throughout. You see offensive players and defensive players chopping it up. Yesterday was probably the best indicator or the best depiction of this team and how together they really are. You see teammates; they're involved in animated conversation. Yeah. There's just there's bantering going on.
Was this missing last year at this same time?
Definitely. You see young players and veteran players talking to one another. There just is it's a palpable cohesiveness that you're seeing across the locker room, not just, relegated to position groups, tight ends, linebackers, and so on. You're seeing it throughout. And I think that when you have that kind of chemistry, you're more willing to go out there and have that kind of confidence and play for one another. And I know that sounds cliche, but what I've seen right now is very reminiscent to the 2022 Eagles.
So who's led that charge? Because last year we've talked about that 49ers pregame moment where they walked right through your DB drills. And I know that if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is on this team still last year, he's not allowing the 49ers to just punk you and walking right through like that. So we know the physicality that he brings, but who's bringing this, fun feel? Because it's something, as John said, it's something that wasn't there last year.
Yeah, I think it's been a collective effort, Andrew. I would say C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he always brings the energy, and he has that swagger. Slay is another one who certainly has a lot of juice that he brings in there. Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson. It's just, you're seeing it from all kinds of players. Paris Campbell yesterday was sort of really animated and getting different guys involved in conversation.
Awesome.
So my point is it's not just, you can't just pinpoint it on one player, which I think is pretty special.
So what was missing last year then? Because if you're looking, it's probably 80% of the or more of the same guys.
Was it just losing the Super Bowl? Because I remember Tim's story where he said
they were 10-1 after that.
Yeah, but everybody was still on oh man, we lost the Super Bowl. Was it just that, the weight of that?
So that's a great question. It allows me to take a step back and really assess, because last season, guys, I would tell you that more often than not, it kind of felt like, it was a little tense, especially I can always go back to that win that the Eagles had on Christmas, where you walk into the locker room and you wouldn't be able to tell whether they won or lost. It was, you could hear a pin drop in there. Now, and I think I would attribute that to there was a lot of mercenary players, right? They came in late in the season, whether it was Kevin Byard, whether it was Bradley Roby. So you have a lot of players that aren't necessarily immersed in the culture. They didn't join the Eagles back in training camp. They weren't as immersed into that culture. So you know that you're on a 1-year deal, and you're trying to hopefully, and if you're them, get a ring. And I just think that it was not a good mix of personalities, perhaps. And then also you had a lot of young coordinators. I mean, you had a lot of young coaches there, and the Eagles have done a really good job now in balancing that by having 2 veteran coordinators in Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore operating their sides of the ball. And then they've also fulfilled the coaching staff with a lot of young coaches that have a ton of upside and are really good at fine-tuning the details.
I would look right now at the way the Eagles are playing and say, I think I feel more confident about how they are as a team than 2022. When you compare and contrast the 2 seasons as you watch them unfold, do you feel differently? Do you feel the same way? How are you with that?
I think I do have a stronger sense of conviction in what I've seen from this team, knowing that I think they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. If you're looking to kind of point to one area of concern, I guess, or one area of skepticism, would be the consistency of the passing game. But when you look at the team chemistry, the leadership from the coaching staff, Jalen Hurts evolving as a quarterback, which it may not reflect necessarily in the stat sheet, guys, but I think his ability to command that 4-minute offense, protect the football, be that +1 in the running game, put that unique stress on defense. And I just think when you take all that into consideration, I think that this team has all the ingredients that you need for them to be able to make a serious postseason run and get to the Super Bowl.
All right, so the other thing that we've pointed out, you just talked about the consistency of the passing game, but the other one, it's Groundhog Day. It's talking about the slow starts offensively. John asked a question earlier today that was interesting. Who are you pinning that more so on? John, you said what, Hurts versus
I said how
coaching
I don't
staff.
think anybody – I never hear anybody blame Jalen for the slow starts. They blame the offensive coaches,
That's the easy thing
plays.
to do.
I think Jalen starts slow.
Yeah, I agree with you.
He's a slow starter.
I agree with you. I mean, I think both parties are culpable, but
Yes.
I would also say that it's so easy for a lot of folks to kind of harp on the coaching staff than it is for them to criticize a player. I mean, look, there's been opportunities for the Eagles to get things rolling offensively, John, and Jalen Hurts has missed receivers.
I haven't been afraid to criticize Jalen, as you know. It's just,
but I think if you were monitor, I'll do the live tweeting during the game and I'm going to do that, by the way, Sunday. You can join me on the Fanatic Twitter feed. The idea of the criticism, I always think goes to the coaching.
Always, and it's so unfair, and it's maddening to me to hear and see that as often as I do, because when things go right, you rarely hear the coaching staff get lauded for their.
I think so. Like, why is Will Shipley getting touches in the first quarter? Why is Ben Van Sumer? Why are we calling Rousford Van Sumer?
I mean, they're trying to mix things up with their personnel, but
early on,
I'd rather get momentum started. I know Jalen Hurts doesn't believe in momentum.
That's why I said both parties are culpable, and I think you have to give credit to Jalen Hurts for being able to kind of put that aside and make plays later in high leverage moments.
All right, so coming up next, we will talk a little bit more about Sunday's game, some matchups to keep an eye on, and, just whether or not this is a beatdown, which it should be. And then, of course, we'll talk more about our topics today. I'm curious to hear what Andrew thinks about what kind of coach he would like. It started with the Dan Campbell conversation about that 4th and 1 going for it yesterday on the Packers' 21-yard line instead of just kicking the field goal at that point. What kind of coach would Andrew DiCecco want? It is Kincade and Salciunas. Don't forget your questions as well at 610-632-0975 here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Good injury news for the Birds. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update's brought to you by Philly Sports Trips. Join Andrew Salciunas in Clearwater Beach next March for the spring training trip of a lifetime. Go to phillysportstrips.com and place a small deposit to reserve your spot. That's phillysportstrips.com. The Eagles got some good injury news again on the injury report from Thursday's action. Darius Slay, Devontae Smith, both full participants in practice. Now, Reed Blankenship is still in concussion protocol. Sidney Brown did not practice, and we know Dallas Goedert is week to week with a knee injury. But having Darius Slay and Devontae Smith back, who both missed last week's contest against the Ravens, is a good sign for the Birds, especially, especially with a good team coming in here Sunday, but they're playing the Panthers, and maybe that's overlooking them. But listen to what David Newton had to say, who covers the Panthers for ESPN, when he joined the Mike Missanelli show yesterday, about how the Eagles can beat the Panthers.
Well, if the Eagles do what they do best, and that's run the ball, I think it should be an easy victory. The Panthers haven't stopped the run against anybody.
And the Eagles have the Saquon Barkley guy who nobody's been able to stop, so it seems like a good combination for the Birds to find a strong ground game on Sunday. They may not find the 1 seed, though. The Lions took down the Packers last night, making the Eagles' path to the 1 seed significantly more difficult. The Flyers fell to the Florida Panthers 7-5 last night, and the Sixers will play the Magic at 7 p.m. at the Wells Fargo Center tonight. This update's also brought to you by Macy's Backstage. Macy's Backstage has amazing deals on the holidays' most fun gifts. Get low prices every day on unique finds in-store only at Macy's Backstage, and find a location near you at macy'sbackstage.com. I'm Connor Thomas for 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic, joined by Andrew DiCecco for the entire hour, as he does each and every football Friday, as the Eagles prepare to take on the Panthers this Sunday. So I know a lot of our conversation has been about Eagles, Lions, and how the two teams match up, because that's kind of what our sights are set on right now. But they do still have to finish this regular season first that has 5 more games, including Sunday's 1 o'clock kickoff against the Panthers. So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about the Carolina Panthers, some matchups to keep an eye on. Bryce Young obviously back in the starting lineup as the quarterback for the Panthers. They got Adam Thielen back. They had a nice connection last week, the two of them. But as we've talked about a lot, the Eagles' defense is dominant. I'm not really expecting much of Adam Thielen and Xavier Leggett this weekend.
Nor should you. They're coming alive a little bit there, but they don't have enough offensively or defensively to keep pace with the Eagles or even keep that remotely competitive. But if I'm looking at an area in which I think the Eagles can exploit offensively in terms of the passing game, it's over the middle, where I think that when you look at what the Panthers have at linebackers, Josie Jewell, who doesn't run particularly well. Trevin Wallace is a linebacker out of Kentucky. He was drafted, I believe, in the 2nd round, and I liked him a ton. I talk about him a lot over these airwaves, but he doesn't have necessarily – he has developing instincts, but he's not quite there yet. And that's where I think the Eagles could take advantage with someone like a Grant Calcaterra working the seams, who does have some burst and athleticism to him. If Jalen Hurts does take to the air, that is. But the clear path to victory would be on the ground, where they can't stop a nosebleed. Saquon Barkley is going to have a pretty big game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get out to an early enough lead where they're able to kind of build that, and then all of a sudden they're giving way for Kenny Gainwell and Will Shipley. And Will Shipley is a North Carolina native. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the week that he gets his first NFL touchdown.
Wow. Now, my buddy John Maley already had said to me this would be a good week to bet last touchdown Will Shipley. Last touchdown scored. He gets in the game late and gets that
I was going to look at Gainwell overs in rushing yards. Like, I think we're all on the same page here that the starters are off the field in the 4th quarter.
When you look at what the Eagles have been doing in this ascent, and we've been talking about it, there's what is so, I'm going to put it simply, what is so portable about what the Eagles are doing if you take Saquon out of the mix? That is not on the table. What is so portable about what the Eagles are doing that you say, yeah, that they can take this and they can play anywhere? Because I'm getting grief today for saying that I think it would be a coin flip.
Their defense is dominant, all 3 levels. That's exactly why. When they're in a bind offensively and they get off to a slow start, that defense does enough to keep them in the game, enough to where the offense eventually settles in and they take over. So I believe with that recipe, that formula, they're going to be just fine. And I mean, I can't say enough about what Vic Fangio has been able to do in transforming that defense into one of the NFL's strongest. In my opinion, they have the NFL's best defense. We also have to give a lot of credit to the position coaches. Linebacker coach Bobby King, secondary coach Christian Parker, cornerback coach Roy Anderson, defensive line coach Clint Hurt. They've done a great job in taking the talent that they have and really honing in and refining it, and I would really accentuating what they all do well.
Well, Clint Hurt is just great because of how big he is, and I would never mess around with that man. Like, if I'm on an opposing team sideline and I'm seeing Clint Hurt over there, I'm like, I'm already scared about this game. By the way, Will Shipley, if you did a last-time touchdown bet on FanDuel, obviously our respective apps may have different odds.
Okay.
Plus 4,500 for the last touchdown. Now, what if? Because I could see this happening.
It's plus 4,500?
Yeah.
All right, John Maley, I'm doing it.
Kenny G has gotten red zone touches when Barkley pulls himself out of the game.
He has.
So a Gainwell touchdown earlier in the game, and then you parlay that with a Shipley anytime touchdown, a $10 bet will win you $833.
Wow.
Don't you dare.
No.
What do you mean, don't you?
A $10 bet?
All I do is provide the information. Will Shipley is a North Carolina native, Weddington, North Carolina. He scored against the Bengals, which of course got called back due to holding. I think he scores this week.
Could you see both in the same game, Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley scoring a touchdown? What is your opinion on that?
Well, it's interesting because I don't think Gainwell got a single touch against the Ravens, and Will Shipley got a touch on the 3rd play of the game. So I don't know which way this is going to go, but I would be floored if that happened, Andrew, to answer your question.
I'm looking at how the defense has played. What is it about this Eagles defense that is going to absolutely make Bryce Young look like a lost puppy out there?
they rally to the football. It's not just one player. They swarm with urgency, and on the back end, they plaster coverage. I think Cooper DeJean he's injected a ton of life in that back end. You could argue that the insertion of him at the nickel role over Avonte Maddox has fully unlocked the potential of that Eagles defense. So they're just, all three levels are just so in sync that Bryce Young hasn't seen anything like this defense, and they're just operating at such a high level, and they're so confident right now that I do feel like they know that they can just take over games.
I feel good now. I feel a lot better now.
Damn right.
I have a question for football guy Andrew. Will Quinyon Mitchell be the...
Yeah, I'll answer it for you.
No, the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Will Quinyon Mitchell be the first NFL Hall of Famer without an interception?
610-632.
Realistically, is this the week? Can he get one? Why does he not have one yet? What's your thought on that?
I'm not, honestly, Connor, I'm not even sure how apt Bryce Young's going to be to even throw the football to the outside. I think he's going to be more adept at throwing over the middle. The tight ends, Tommy Tremble and Jatavian Sanders, who's a rookie from Florida State. I don't know that he's even going to try and test the outside with Slay or Quinyon Mitchell.
Okay, fair enough.
He does. How about this? He's been slinging it a little better.
A little bit better, yeah.
But
yeah, he's playing with nothing.
I think
he's already been benched, so he's playing with nothing to lose.
I honestly think
he's got my guy Jalen Coker out there. He's an undrafted wide receiver from Holy Cross, who I interviewed before the draft.
See,
that's a football guy.
I honestly think he has that. The story has not been written on Bryce Young yet.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think
because remember last year we were being told that Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud were ranked ahead of Jalen Hurts as quarterbacks in the NFL, and that was a joke.
Yeah, it's a classic case of a young player kind of being thrust into a role that he probably wasn't ready for, needing time to kind of let the game slow down for him a little bit. And has it been perfect for him? No, but he's showing signs of the player that they envisioned when they drafted him.
I got a life question for you guys.
I got a life answer for you.
Have you ever been dissatisfied with a service to the point where you contacted the employer just to complain about something?
The employer? You mean like an individual?
Yeah, you were like, I was upset with you went to a restaurant and it was such a bad meal that you called management.
Never.
I've never done that either because I
would never do that.
I think we have at one point on a home vendor.
Okay.
On somebody that was sent out by a vendor.
Okay.
And then they sent somebody else.
All right.
I did it one time to those "How am I driving" stickers.
I like that.
You didn't? Did you really?
Absolutely.
No, I kind of love that.
This dude was driving like a
this.
complete ass and cutting multiple people off, and then cut me off, and I said, "I'm calling."
All right. So
and what did they do when you called?
I don't even think I got
No,
anybody.
you probably haven't got anybody. Did you ever call their personal cell phone? Oh, damn! He hung up. He knew where I was going.
What was that?
We had a caller on hold.
Oh!
And he hung up.
Oh,
coward!
he did.
You are a coward. You hung up. You coward.
What do you want?
I don't know.
I'll tell you.
That's a good one.
I'll tell you a story during
That's very good.
during the break.
That's good.
All right,
That's good. I didn't get where you were going there.
What do you have on the text line there, Connor? You can text the show at 610-632-0975.
Very cowardly, I will say.
Yeah, hanging up afterward. Very cowardly.
Very cowardly.
Hopefully something that makes a little more sense to our listeners in that conversation.
No, it would have made sense once I went to his call, but he was a coward. He hung up.
There was a caller who doesn't like you, and they didn't hang, and they hung up. Let's go.
The weirder story is finding the personal cell phone of the boss to call them.
People are crazy.
Keep going.
Question for football guy Andrew here.
Yeah.
After watching the Lions defense last night, even with the injuries, does their run defense worry you at all in a potential NFC Championship matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they're really physical. They get after it. They try to impose their will at the line of scrimmage, but so does the Eagles' offensive line. And they play a bully ball style, and I do believe that that's something that you can expect. That is going to be the game within the game should those two teams meet each other. But that's going to be a game where Jalen Hurts is going to have to take to the air, and the Eagles' passing offense is going to have to meet the moment, because I do believe that they're going to try and do everything they can to bottle up Saquon Barkley.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Coming up next, we'll obviously get to more of your questions for Andrew. If you have a question for football guy Andrew DiCecco, I can answer them, but I'll let Andrew answer them. You can text in at 610-632-0975. We'll get Andrew's final thoughts on this upcoming game, and then, of course, we'll project a little bit, because that's where we're at this point. And one of the things that we discussed earlier in this week, John, was about the tests and whether there's any true tests left. And I think there's really just one. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Now, obviously, we'll break down that game moving forward, but we'll ask Andrew what other tests we could see for this Eagles team moving forward? Or are we really at the point right now where it's, hey, wake me up when the playoffs come? It's Kincade and Salciunas on this Football Friday. Andrew DiCecco joins us for another segment right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now, a Birds Insider update on
97 on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. By the way, coming up at 9:30, our man Mike Kay is going to be joining us. He covers the Panthers. Used to cover the Eagles here locally.
He did. Good dude.
That's my guy. Tell him I said hello.
We will. He's going to be joining us coming up at 9:30 to give us some of the insight for the Carolina Panthers, which is what we're getting right now with our man Andrew DiCecco, who joins us for the entire 8 o'clock hours he does every single football Friday. We'll get some more questions from the audience coming up in a little bit. But the test question. So they seem to be passing every test with flying color. Big back, Derrick Henry, took care of business. The secondary going up against Kupp and Nakua, they did that. Sacking quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, can they keep a mobile quarterback in check? They did that. Are there any other tests that you see from here on out where you go, all right, I need to see the Eagles do this against that team?
Not really, Andrew. I think if you're looking at it against the Panthers, let's say, you would like to see the Eagles kind of get their passing game off the ground a lot earlier than they have in games, because it can't always be a rescue mission late in the game where Jalen Hurts is now able to make some pivotal throws and high-leverage moments. You have to be able to sustain that for about 60 minutes, because a team like the Detroit Lions or some of the better teams in the NFL that you're going to face in the postseason will pounce early and create a hole in which now you have to find a way to get out of it with your arm. And if you're not averse at doing so, or I should say if you're not adept at doing so, it could be problematic.
I am very excited to see how the Eagles approach things if let's say the Bills game next week with the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Bills-Lions play. Lions find a way to win that game. I'm anxious to see how the Eagles will handle the back end of the season, knowing that the 1 seed is probably out the window. How do you believe the Eagles are? Do you believe there will be any load management except by score the rest of the way?
Not really, John. I really do like what the Eagles have done in terms of how they allocate their practice designations to certain players, like resting Josh Sweat, who played a ton of snaps last year, resting Saquon Barkley, Jalen Carter, who plays a ton of snaps. But later in the season, obviously, if the number 1 seed's totally out the window, I'm not saying that they're going to sit starters, but there may be moments in games where they get out to big leads, and now you're playing some of the reserves. And certainly that last game of the season, I could definitely see. If you think back to like 2004 or even 2022, where they were playing a lot of reserve players, I could see that.
They had to win that Giant game.
Oh, that's right. That's
for
right.
the number 1 seed
because
of
Gardner Minshew. Yeah,
Gardner Minshew didn't win those 2 other games.
But in 2004,
he played well in the Dallas game.
Right.
He didn't play well in the Saints game.
And then in 2004, the Eagles had like the last 2 games of the season that they were playing like Greg Lewis and players like that.
Sure.
So I could see that. Yes.
G. Lou, man. All right, let's go to a call because we got football guy Andrew DiCecco here. We also have football guy Coach Mike on line 1. So, Mike, Andrew DiCecco, Mike from Yardley, have at it.
Good morning, guys.
Discuss
Hey, Mike, what's up?
Your football
What's up,
intellect, both of you.
You speak too highly of me. I had this question for Andrew because he said earlier that he thinks it's both Jalen and the coaching staff on why we get off to such a slow start. Andrew, it seems that when we get into a fast-paced offense, when we go fast tempo, almost like no huddle, that the Eagles do really well. Mm-hmm. It seems like and I feel like that's exactly what we did on that drive last game when we scored with Dallas Goedert.
Right.
Exactly. Do you think that's something that the coaching staff realizes after all this time and kind of goes to that more so in the beginning of games?
Yeah, that's interesting, Mike, because Kellen Moore was actually asked that earlier this week about going up-tempo and how successful the Eagles have been. The offense moves a lot more rhythmic when you see that. Yes. So I would have to think, and Kellen said, yeah, that's something that we're going to take into account, because I think sometimes in the heat of the game you're not maybe as cognizant of that, but I would expect the Eagles to kind of, as they do every week, assess what works and what doesn't work, and obviously going up-tempo seems to have much more, gives the offense much more traction. So yes, I think that's something that they're going to look to implement.
I totally believe so myself. And my last question was this, and this has to do with what you watched last night looking at Detroit. What does Detroit do that you think makes them so successful or so good? Is it the offensive play calling? Well, what is it?
Yeah, it's the play calling. It's the ability to sustain drives. I think too early in games, you see the Eagles, their drives will stall due to it's just very clunky. Whereas Detroit, they're able to, Jared Goff, whether it's 10, 12 yards at a time, he's able to kind of slice and dice his way down the field. They have the two-headed rushing attack. They're a very complete offense. I think Ben Johnson does a really good job in terms of play calling. So their offense just moves a lot. It's a lot more fluid, I would say, than the Eagles, where they're more one-dimensional. So that, to me, is the only area of concern if you're looking at it from the Eagles' standpoint. Defensively, the Eagles' defense, I think you take that over any defense in the NFL. They're just playing at such an elite level right now.
Thanks for the call, Coach Mike. We appreciate it. Mike played football at UDEL. So
Like,
you
nice.
guys are two football guys.
I love UDEL.
UDEL?
Yeah.
Yes.
My sister graduated from UDEL.
How about that?
Yeah.
So,
Then I think of ass-kicking chickens. I don't think of...
The Blue Hens.
Yeah, I think of the ass-kicking chickens. UDEL, I've never heard before.
You never heard UDEL?
UD, I've never heard UDEL.
UDEL?
No,
That's all I've
UD.
ever heard of
Yeah,
no,
UD.
really?
You go UDEL? I say
go
UDEL.
UDEL.
The ass-kicking chickens.
Elena Deladon, right?
They're our own Josie.
Yeah, sure.
What do you mean?
Joe
Yeah,
Flacco.
sure. What, didn't Elena Deladon go to...
She definitely did. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Sure.
You know, one of the best...
Joe Flacco, Troy Reader,
women's basketball
linebacker.
players,
we
man.
got a
Chris
list,
McDonald.
Blue Hens the rest of the
Well,
segment.
we got
Shooter
we got-
McGavin?
We got blue head knowledge here.
We got something important to get to.
Darian
because-
Bouzakis.
All right.
What's that?
Former corner.
You have a challenge.
I went to high school. Go
You
ahead.
have a challenge from James and Conchi, who says, because you said going into one of the breaks that you can answer these questions too for Andrew DiCecco. Since you're
I'm a
Mr. Football guy.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
James
that's the
from
challenge.
Conchi
Spider
wants to
2
know,
Y banana. Let's go,
after
baby.
what you watched in last night's Lions game against the Packers, would you play a defensive cover 4 or cover 2 against them in the postseason? Show your work.
I'd go cover 2, baby.
Why?
Because.
Tampa 2? I can see
Tampa
it.
2.
Look,
That's it,
he's
see?
Well,
We're
the
all on
wheels
the
are
same
turning.
page.
Great answer.
We're all on the same page.
I wrote down last night something for Andrew DiCecco, but I have to save it. But it's the idea of I want to know how much the Eagles receivers would exploit all that man-to-man coverage in the secondary of the Lions.
By the way, how about this? I go single high safety because all I'm worried about is Jamison Williams as the deep threat. Everything else is underneath with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And, of course, you got to be ready to defend up in the box because they're going run first with Jahmyr
Look
Gibbs,
at
David
that.
Montgomery.
That's a mic drop.
That's right. I should be Dan
Nice to
Campbell,
see
too.
that Google AI finally booted up for you.
There it is.
By the way, the Panthers have a corner named Michael Jackson who plays opposite J.C. Horn.
Wow, nice.
So if Devontae Smith does play this game, which, by the way, is certainly trending in that direction, I would expect Devontae, when they go to the passing game, to have some success working against Michael Jackson. Smooth criminal.
That's good work by you. All right, Andrew, listen, brother, thank you so much, as always. I would ask you for your prediction, but I don't want to spoil the pregame show. But I also feel like you think they're going to win this football game.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they are.
All right, Andrew, thanks so much. We
Thanks,
appreciate it
buddy.
as always. Coming up next, our man Kevin Negandhi normally joins us on Thursdays. He's going to start the 9 o'clock hour on this Football Friday. Mike Kay, who covers the Panthers, is going to be joining us at 9:30. So we still got a lot in store for you in the 9 o'clock hour. We got to do our picks earlier. Normally we do it at 9:30.
We'll
We got to
be
do
all
them.
over it.
We'll do them right after Kevin at 9:15. It is Kincade and Salciunas on this Football Friday, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
An easy plan for the Eagles. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update's brought to you by Bradford White Water Heaters. When you need a new water heater, choose one that's built to be the best. Choose Bradford White. The Eagles, well, they're matching up with the Carolina Panthers this Sunday, 1 p.m., Lincoln Financial Field, and it is a chance for them to extend their winning streak to 9 straight games. And David Newton, who covers not the Eagles, no, the Panthers for ESPN, well, he seems to think that that's going to happen, especially if the Eagles use this very simple formula.
Well, if the Eagles do what they do best, and that's run the ball, I think it should be an easy victory. The Panthers haven't stopped the run against anybody.
That courtesy of the Mike Missanelli show yesterday, a great interview, and Saquon Barkley has been great this year. So has basically everyone in the Eagles' running game, offensive line, Jalen Hurts included. So should be able to handle the Panthers on Sunday, especially since you get back Darius Slay and Devontae Smith, who were both full participants in practice yesterday. The Lions took down the Packers last night, making the Eagles' path to the 1 seed look a lot tougher. The Eagles are going to need a lot of things to break their way to get to the top seed in the NFC, but the 2 seed, well, it still seems like a pretty good shot. The Flyers fell to the Florida Panthers 7-5 last night, a high-scoring affair. Matvei Michkov did have 3 assists in the loss. The Sixers take on the Orlando Magic at 7 p.m. tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. You can hear that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And busy 9 o'clock hour. We got Kevin Negandhi joining us at 9, Mike Kay joining us at 9:30. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Mike Missanelli.
This team just keeps rolling along. They've got really good.
Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic. Our man Kevin Negandhi is going to join us momentarily. Now, for in case people were wondering, when I asked the life question for Andrew and John and Connor about calling an employer if you were dissatisfied with
because people were asking
with services, I don't care if you're not a fan of mine. I'm going to sleep soundly tonight. Kind of weird to find the boss's cell phone number and call him personally to complain about somebody.
See, that's weird. That's
very weird.
That's weird.
And that person was on hold as much as he dislikes me, still calls into the show, but then he hung up because he knew where I was going.
I did that once. I thought Kevin Negandhi didn't have the best 6 p.m. Sports Center that night.
So you called Bristol?
Well, I used to be an employee, so I knew some of the numbers. I had a directory, and I called anonymously, though. I used one of those voice scramblers. I used it. You don't know who I am.
But now you're telling everybody.
But Kevin Negandhi did this wrong.
Let's see how he feels about it. What's up, Kevin?
I thought that was one of my relatives. I didn't know that was you, John.
Well, you just saw the area code.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you were fooled. One of your high school teachers or college professors, maybe. We don't know.
Yeah, demanding more Philadelphia talk, or also telling me stop talking about the Sixers. Please.
Exactly. Yes.
We'll get to them at some point. JoJo's not playing again tonight, by the way. Kevin.
Shocker.
So the Eagles are playing a game this weekend. What are you doing next Sunday? Because we've already moved past the Panthers, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, can we just enjoy it?
Yes.
Hey, I will say this to you guys. We were all feeling really cocky at 10-1 last year. I know those wins weren't great wins or feel-good wins, but 10-1 last year. Can we just enjoy? It's given me a perspective that I am just going to enjoy every single week because guess what, guys? Once February, after the Super Bowl happens, we are jonesing for 7 months on any storyline. So I'm going to enjoy a game like this. I just don't want anybody to get hurt.
Oh,
That's
of course.
how I kind of view it.
That's what
right?
we said before the show. We were saying beat down and be healthy. Those are the two things we want.
Kev, the last 2 weeks did so much because I truly expected a split. The LA-Baltimore end of the season thing on the road, I expected a split. What I saw was 2 really dominant efforts. Which one actually impressed you more? Is it got to be the Ravens because of what happened, the better opponent?
The Ravens because they were down 9-0.
Oh, that's part of it, yeah.
It could have got really bad because, think about it, I think early in the season, in that 4th and 2, I think they were, at right around the 45, Nick Sirianni made a decision that I don't think we would have seen earlier this year. He decided to punt. And by punting, I think it changed the entire game. It got the Ravens deep in their own territory, inside the 5. The punt was fantastic. That's why the punter was the special teams player of the week. And then after that, it got a short field for the offense, and then the offense suddenly started clicking, right? So to me, Nick Sirianni changed it. And you could actually point to the Rams game, too, by not taking that penalty on that 3rd down. That quote crazy decision where he's like, no, you know what, I'm not going to take it. Those 2 decisions shows the confidence that he has on the defensive side that they're going to get a stop and they're going to figure things out. And that's something we didn't get a vibe for earlier this year, and where I felt like, and I called him out. I felt he was negligent with some of his decisions, and everything felt like I've got to prove that I'm the toughest guy around, and I'm smart, and look at me. Now he's just saying, hey, what's best for the team? What's best for the situation? And where's my trust? And you could see that trust has been elevated with this defense. And that goes back to your original question. What they did with Lamar really blew me away. I was very impressed. Now, Lamar chose a couple times. He said it after the game, I should have ran more. My mom's really mad because there were some openings there. But he stayed in the pocket. And for them to rush 4 the way they did and still apply some pressure and create some havoc and make them think a little bit in the sense of, I've got to move, I've got to move, I've got to move, I thought it was really, really smart and well done by this team. And they do this game without Slay. It just shows the maturity and the growth of the young guys. Vic Fangio deserves a ton of credit. And I'm not sure what's going on with the first quarter and these scripted plays.
can we just stop that and just go? Let's just act like the team is already on their second or third drive in that opening drive, and it's just run the football consistently.
I asked on Sunday to hear Saquon Barkley run the ball on 1st and 10 every single first quarter possession. Would you be against that?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Let's do it.
There's nothing wrong with that because it is not so much as we've seen with this team in the second half. It's not so much. It's you're playing the long game here. It's not so much, hey, now you're going to be 2nd and 8. What are you going to do? It is the wearing down of that offensive line on the defensive front, and eventually we're going to see 26 break through. And we've seen it multiple times in multiple games where he has a 40 or 50-yard run in that third and fourth quarter because they're just wearing them down because that's the strength of this team, that offensive line.
Kevin, you were talking about Sirianni earlier and how he's grown this season. We're seeing it happen within our own eyes, the deciding to punt in certain situations. What would we be saying this morning if the Eagles played last night and they decided to go for it on 4th and 1 on the Packers' 21-yard line like the Lions did last night?
I think we would all lost our mind. And guess what? Deep down, I think the Lions fan base is losing their mind. That's Dan Campbell. Like, he is consistent, and it played a role and bit him in the ass last year in the NFC Championship game on the road. This is who he is. But I got to tell you guys, in a playoff game when you've got great players matched up against great players, a coaching decision will decide a game. And that's been my biggest issue with Sirianni. I've been talking about it, just consistency and awareness of the situation, not just doing this isolated and let's just go for it. There's certain inconsistencies, right, that has kind of driven us crazy. The coaches make the difference when all the players are matched up. It's how you put your team in the best possible spot. And Sirianni needs to get highlighted because, again, it could have been 16-0 if they would have gotten stopped on going for that 4th down. Instead, they punt. They get the great field position, then they score. It's 9-7. You're feeling completely different. I'm not sure why Dan did it, but I think Dan, that's the identity of Dan, and also they're at home. It's a different vibe at home, right? And they got eventually the 1st down. And there's another scenario, too. It works when you're tied and you're like, you know what? There's a minute to go. I'm going to believe in my defense. There's a lot of scenarios that played out in that where it's like, all right, if I'm going to take this risk, it's a little bit calculated.
How much of your confidence that the Eagles would go to the Super Bowl is determined by whether they host the NFC title game against Detroit or if they would have to go to Detroit?
Man, that's a good question. As somebody that was at the NFC Championship game in 2017 and somebody that was at the 2022 NFC Championship game, that game against the Vikings, the game against the 49ers, that environment, nothing touches that, guys. Nothing. Like, it's the loudest experience I've ever had in Philadelphia. When Robinson got the pick 6 in 2017, I can't begin to tell you how electric that vibe will never leave me. It'll never leave the how that place erupted. So understanding that experience and also being at the opener a year, I was 2 years ago when the Eagles were at the Lions, and I was at that game, and understanding Ford Field, how hungry that fan base is, very relatable to the Eagles fan base. My confidence level goes a little bit down because of that environment. That environment's going to be, that place is going to be popping. You talk about a franchise that hasn't been to a Super Bowl ever, and they haven't won a championship since 1957. It'll be a different place. And now the Eagles have been experienced in that, but I think home field plays a role. How loud it can be, especially late in games, I think it plays a role.
Kevin, Saquon Barkley is on pace to break records for the Philadelphia Eagles franchise with rushing yards and all-purpose yards. Obviously, he's trying to get to 2,000 total rushing yards, which hasn't happened all that often, only 8 times in the NFL. Are you somebody that would root for more success for Barkley, or are you saying, yeah, let's take it easy here and try to keep him healthy for the playoffs?
I would want him healthy for the playoffs, but at the same time, I want Saquon to eat as much as possible. And it's been fantastic when he's rolling. The offense, they essentially need him to move the sticks so then you can open up the passing game down the field. So with Devontae, hopefully he's back this weekend. With Devontae still a little beat up, Goddard beat up with the knee, you need Saquon. You just do. And I want Saquon to be sharp heading into the playoffs. Now, to John's question previously, we talk about this whole, I think people sometimes overlook it over the last few years. We talk about this whole entire NFL playoff format and home field. The 1 seed is critical not just to host a game, but the NFC Championship game, but you also get the bye. You're the only one that gets a bye. And so I say all this to you because we need Saquon to continue to keep rolling to potentially get that 1 seed. I think that 1 seed is critical to have that bye. Then you got to only play 2 games, and potentially, guys, you avoid a Packers team. I don't want to face the Packers again as a 2 seed. I just don't.
There is one silver lining if they were the 2 seed. Most likely, if the Packers, let's say the Packers and Vikings won their games against the NFC West and NFC South champions, the Packers would go to Detroit again, and the Vikings would come here. I'd feel like the Eagles actually got the better opponent.
I completely agree with you, John, without a doubt. Now, I will say this, though. Brian Flores is a damn good defensive coach, and Kevin O'Connell's a damn good offensive coach.
He is.
So I would be worried about what Flores can do scheme-wise, but I don't want to face the Packers in the playoffs if we're talking big picture. If we're facing the Packers potentially to get to the Super Bowl, different story. I don't want to play them in the early rounds.
All right, Kevin, before we let you go, man, just your thoughts on the Sixers. Just how we feeling? How we feeling right now?
Nothing, guys. I got nothing.
They don't either. They don't either, so we're even.
I just, you know what? You brought up protecting Barkley. Just protect Tyrese Maxey. That's all I want. Just protect Tyrese Maxey more than anything else.
Does it bother you that Paul George didn't play the last game? It was the second game of back-to-back. I get it. But you're 5-14 now, 5-15 because you lost.
Why are you load managing for a team that's 5-15?
You need to start winning basketball games.
I got nothing invested in Paul George, so it doesn't bother me because I'm sure this was happening in L.A. So, to me, just protect Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. Like, he has been fantastic. He's been one of the bright spots here in this first 20 games. And guess what? A few years ago when we had to deal with the Ben Simmons drama, guess who emerged? And it was like Tyrese Maxey emerged. And this eventually helped them down the road. I am trying everything possible, guys, to just look at the positive and just I got nothing to give on the conversation of what are we doing? Because
there's always Mishkov.
I have no answers.
There's always
Mishkov.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And you know what? And there's also free agency with the Phillies. So let's also let's hang on to some of the hope.
Damn right, Kevin. Listen,
Thanks,
man,
Kev.
we appreciate you coming on today, and we can't wait to talk to you again next week. As always, enjoy yourself. A great weekend.
Thank you, buddy.
Take care.
There he is, Kevin Negandhi on the Comcast Business Hotline. All right, give us some football music there, Mr. Thomas, because we got to do our picks. We have Mike Kay from the Charlotte Observer coming up at 9:30 to talk about Eagles-Panthers, and because he's coming on at 9:30, we had to move up our picks. Now, who has the T-Boss?
Did you two are tied? So
we both went 3-1.
Connor is right now. Connor and you are 32-20 at 62%. I am 31-21 at 60%.
Connor,
I'm in tied first. Well, I'm in second place by myself.
T-Box is yours, Connor. Go for it.
I don't want it.
Do you need a minute?
I would like a minute.
All right,
I'm
then
just trying to figure out a prop.
I'll go first. Okay, so I have, as I mentioned, Mike Evans over 65.5 receiving yards.
Because you're on your new bender with that.
Yeah, he's my new Jahmyr Gibbs bet. The other thing is, as I said, when he first came back from injury, he has never had a season under 1,000 yards receiving. He's at 530, I believe, with 5 games left.
That's a little dangerous. What's the number again?
His over-under is only 65.5.
That's not bad at all.
So I like the over in that one. Now, this is a risky bet.
Okay.
But, hey, we're in the business of making money. Bucky Irving's been ridiculous, the running back for the Bucs. I'm taking his under. It's only 66.5 yards rushing. Now, if you remember, he walked off the field against the Panthers with that big, he was limping his back. He had that big thing on his back. They should handle the Raiders. If they're beating the Raiders, then that means they should say, hey, Bucky, we're going to try to keep you healthy for the playoffs. Okay. So then they have Rashad White. They have another guy that's been run. They have a 3-tandem backfield. So I'm going under Bucky Irving, 66.5 yards rushing. I like the Dolphins to cover the 5.5 in this game coming up this weekend. I think the Jets losing last weekend was that final nail because they had a chance to win that game. Rodgers did a lead block. They were having fun.
Right.
And they choked it away. I think the Dolphins, who are still fighting for a playoff spot, also it's in Miami, so they're going to be able to move the ball pretty well on Sunday. I like the Dolphins 5.5. And Joe Burrow, do you know what his over-under in passing yards is?
No.
Want to take a guess?
265.
Pretty close. 270.5.
Are you going over?
I'm going over. You're playing in Dallas. Dallas, by the way, your Bengals defense stinks. So, he has to still throw to win football games.
Sure he does, yeah.
Night game, right?
Night game.
No sun.
Monday,
no
it's
sun.
Monday night.
Trust me.
Monday night.
There's no sun issue here. Plus, I need Jamar Chase to have a big day. So, I like Joe Burrow's over 270.5 passing yards against a bad Cowboys.
Have we checked on the moon?
Yeah, I've not.
Where are you going, Connor?
All right, so I'm going to go first to Los Angeles, and I'm not taking the Rams. No, I'm taking the Bills going on the road, giving 3.5 against the LA Rams. They're just a significantly better team. If they're as good as people think they are, they're going to win that game, and they're going to win it comfortably. I'm also going to go up to Minnesota. The Vikings, minus 5.5 versus Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk's return to Minnesota. The Vikings are so much better than that team.
That game has smelled to me all week long. I'm just going to tell you, something smells about it.
Well, guess what? I can't smell,
you
so
can't,
I'm not
you're right.
scared.
Doesn't hurt you.
Dolphins minus 5.5 versus the New York Jets.
You also.
I think the Dolphins are a better team than that significantly. The Jets are just in a dumpster fire. And this one seems easy to me. I'm taking the over on Saquon rushing yards. He's at 111.5 is the line I have on his rushing yards. Take the over. He's going for more than that against the worst rushing defense in the NFL.
111.5?
Hammer the over.
Like that?
Not bad.
All right.
That's not bad. I'm going with 4 quarterback props.
Whoa.
2 over, 2 under.
All right.
Go to the Eagles game. Jalen Hurts. Easy over 211.5. Easy. Even with the bad rush defense of Carolina, I believe they're going to be getting the receivers involved this week in a big way.
Okay.
Hurts over 211.5. Bryce Young under 212.5 passing.
Yeah, he might throw for 150.
He may get his backside kicked. Josh Allen over 236.5 against the Rams. And Patrick Mahomes under 260.5 this week. 4 quarterback props for you.
How about that? Johnny quarterback.
And by the way, I'm one game behind the boys here.
Yeah.
As we are all still in December on over 60% or over.
I did originally write down Eagles defensive anytime touchdown, but
you were ballsy about that.
No, I still think it's going to happen.
No, you're saying that's like a little bonus.
I can't make that. I can't make that an official play when we're this close in terms of our overall record.
Bro,
yeah, exactly.
I bet Jameis Winston 2+ interceptions in a tight contest.
Yeah, but I got to get into the end zone.
Say it with your chest.
Come on, man. I'm saying it with my chest. I'm gonna make a parlay, for myself this weekend.
We appreciate everybody.
Where the defense will be scoring a touchdown.
But Shankosaurus for Andrew 2 weeks ago, Shankosaurus for me this past week, and Connor had one earlier in the year. So we've each had 0-4 weeks. Let's hope none of us have any the rest of the way.
Like the Eagles, I got my bad quarter out of the way early.
Damn right. That's good work by you. All right, coming up next, we speak to Mike Kay, who used to cover the Eagles for NJ.com. He now covers the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer. Andrew DiCecco said a mentor of his.
Wow.
So that's pretty big, man. So Mike joins us coming up next to help preview this Eagles-Panthers game that we're all kind of looking past, but maybe Mike will tell us something that we shouldn't overlook. That's why we speak to the experts, Johnny. That comes your way next on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update. update.
A simple day for Saquon. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Your local Staples store has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. Save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples. The Eagles are matching up with the Panthers Sunday, 1 p.m., the time for kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field. And the Panthers, they boast the worst rushing defense in the NFL. Don't believe me? Just listen to what David Newton, who covers the Panthers for ESPN, said yesterday on the Mike Missanelli show about the Panthers' inability to stop the run.
Well, if the Eagles do what they do best, and that's run the ball, I think it should be an easy victory. The Panthers haven't stopped the run against anybody.
And that seems to make it a simple day for Saquon Barkley. Put your head down, gain those yards, and get the Eagles that 9th straight victory. The Birds injury report is also looking more manageable with Darius Slay and Devontae Smith as full participants at practice yesterday. The 1 seed not looking as manageable. The Lions took down the Packers last night, making the Eagles' path to the 1 seed seem very difficult here on out. They'd need multiple Lions slip-ups and to also run the table. The Flyers fell to the Florida Panthers 7-5 last night in a high-scoring affair. Matvei Michkov, 3 assists in the game, though, so still seeing some great stuff out of the rookie. The Sixers take on the Magic at 7 p.m. at the Wells Fargo Center tonight. You can hear that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. No Joel Embiid in that one. We'll talk to Mike Kay coming up next, who covers the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Bill Colarulo.
He is a very good.
On this Football Friday, Johnny, we've made it.
We have, and it's been a fast week.
Dude, this week has flown by. When the Eagles are flying high like they are right now, it makes everybody's lives so much easier. You guys like it when they lose.
No, we
Wrong.
love it when they win.
We like it when they win.
Makes
you
it
like
easier.
it when they win. Everybody's in a better mood when they win, and we're expecting more of the same this weekend. But let's not get too cocky. Let's see from the other side.
No, let's do it. This guy understands us. This guy understands our DNA.
He does. Formerly covering the Eagles for NJ.com, now covers the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer. He joins us on the Comcast Business Hotline, where every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. That, of course, is Mike K. Mike, good morning. Thanks for coming on today, man.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
So, Eagles, Panthers, it's a pretty big difference in the line, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself just yet, Mike, and start talking about the Steelers game. So, break down some of the things that you've caught when covering the Panthers. Bryce Young obviously gets benched earlier in the year, and he's looked like a different version of himself since getting back into the starting position at quarterback. What are some of the biggest things you've seen differently out of Bryce Young?
Well, I mean, he looks more like the prospect that we all saw at Alabama. He's processing well. He's making improvisation with his throws. He's able to throw off balance and off platform. His vision's really improved, and one of the things that they've really worked on is getting the line quicker out of the huddle. They're not snapping the ball at a crazy rate. They're not revolutionizing, the play clock, but they're allowing Bryce to get to the line and kind of process before the snap. That was one of his big characteristics that the Panthers liked about him, and it's paying off. He's looking like an NFL starting quarterback right now. He's avoiding turnovers. He's making really good plays. He's leading scoring drives pretty regularly. I mean, I think they're very happy with where he's at, especially considering he was benched in week 3, and for 5 weeks, Dave Canales said that Andy Dalton gave them the best chance to win, and then he was only benched because he was in a minor car accident.
Now, the defense for the Eagles has been quite terroristic towards opposing quarterbacks, and the secondary has just been tremendous. How do you think that Bryce Young's ready for that challenge?
I mean, I think he's going to have to really put on his cape in this one. Like, this is not an easy. This isn't an easy look for them. If somebody yells from the street at me, there's a lot that Bryce needs to work on beyond what he's doing with processing, and I think Vic Fangio is going to offer him up a lot of challenges with blitzes and put him in a spot where he really can't get comfortable even pre-snap. And so I think that's something that Vic's going to hone in on. Then again, I would say that Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator for the Panthers, and Dom Capers, the senior assistant, both have been around Vic Fangio for a very long time, know how he operates, and maybe that gives them a little bit of an advantage.
So, Mike, can the Panthers slow down the Eagles offense? And if so, how?
No, they really can't. I mean, this is real. I mean, if Nick Sirianni's not running the ball 20 times in the first half, he's doing it wrong. I mean, the only thing that has stopped opposing teams defensively is when they've gotten cute and decided to pass a bunch. I mean, it's very clear that this is the worst run defense in the league by a mile. And it's not for a lack of toughness. It's technique. It's guys pressing. This is not a good run defense. And while they've improved a lot in pass defense since DJ Wadham's returned to the lineup, and they are getting sacks in droves the last 2 weeks, I just think, like, Saquon Barkley is just like the epitome of what their weakness is, and he's a guy who's harder to tackle than 95% of the league. So you're putting an ultimate strength against an ultimate weakness, and it seems like a recipe for disaster.
Now, the thing is, though, do you believe that they're going to try to sell out to stop Saquon? Because then that passing game could be wide open for especially getting Devontae Smith apparently back.
I mean, I don't think necessarily. They're very zone-heavy. I don't expect them to stack the box to the point where it puts everybody on an island. I mean, they do have two bigger corners that do well against bigger guys, but A.J. Brown's kind of the Saquon Barkley of wide receivers. So it's going to be a challenge for J.C. Horn. It's going to be a challenge for Mike Jackson. It's going to – I mean, their safety play has not been great. The guy who I'd be really concerned about if I were the Panthers is Grant Calcaterra. And I know that sounds kind of wild, but they've been terrible against crossing routes with tight ends. Their safety play has not been great in coverage, and I think they can really exploit with the way they use Calcaterra, especially as a yards after the catch player.
You have the same thought process as our man Andrew DiCecco, who joined us in studio earlier today, who says hello to you and speaks very highly of you. We already know how great you are.
He said
Mike,
mentor.
He said mentor. So,
I mean, really, are you old enough to be a mentor?
I mean, I do have a lot of gray hair in my beard. I guess, I don't know, when you've covered the Jaguars and you've covered the Eagles and you've covered the Panthers, I think you get like an AARP card. Just for
That's awesome. So, Mike, I mean, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but we're talking NFC Championship today, right? Like, we watched the Lions last night, and we're talking about how the Eagles match up with Detroit. But one of the things the Eagles can still do is beat up on opponents and get out of the game in the fourth quarter. Now, again, the Panthers, they win a couple weeks ago against the Saints. They beat the Giants in overtime. They played the Chiefs real tight. They go to overtime this past week against the Buccaneers. Is that more of what you're expecting to see from the Panthers the rest of the way? Are teams taking them lightly, or can I expect to see Saquon Barkley sitting on the bench in the fourth quarter this Sunday?
I mean, I said coming into this game that Saquon's over-under for rushing yards should be 160. They're giving up close to 190 rushing yards per game. Wow. And I think over the last 3 games, on the season, they're averaging like 166 point something. But, yeah, I mean, I think if you just go with your bread and butter, I think it's going to be a relatively easy affair. I don't think that anybody's coming out and surprising you suddenly with strong run defense from the Panthers. That said, if they get cute, if Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni want Jalen Hurts to pass the ball in droves, then this could get kind of dicey. I mean, look, what the Panthers have to do to win this game is rule the time possession, win the turnover battle, and not make mistakes in key third down opportunities. And that all sounds like, yeah, duh. But
that's a lot of things to have to go right.
Right. Against this Eagles offense, this Eagles defense, their punting game is even the Eagles punting unit is doing well. Like it's very hard to find a weakness in this team, and I expect this to be kind of close early, and then in the second half it'll be like, you remember when the Detroit Lions went 0-16 and they would be really competitive in the first half, and then in the second half it'd be like the halftime speech was, guys, you're playing the Lions, and then they would lose. Like, that feels like this type of game. But then again, I was there when Ronnie Brown threw the ball behind him against the 49ers and started the Harbaugh era.
Right.
I covered the Miami Dolphins game where the Eagles got an interception early and they were heavily favored, and then everything kind of fell apart when Christian Wilkins blew up. So, I mean, you can't. It's any given Sunday in the NFL. I just I don't know how the Panthers logically win this game.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for the Panthers, and I'm hoping that we're celebrating pretty early on Sunday for the Eagles. Listen, Mike, we appreciate the time as always.
Look forward to seeing you on Sunday, buddy.
I hope car duty was good for you. Drop off, all that kind of fun stuff. So now enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
Thanks. I just got yelled at by a maintenance man, so hopefully everything's okay. I'll see you guys Sunday.
Take care, buddy.
Yeah, there he is, Mike K. on the Comcast Business Hotline from the Charlotte Observer. Yeah, when I was messaging him the other day, he goes, "Hey, can we do 9:30? I got carpool duty, dropping off the kids."
It's a good dad.
It is a good dad.
It's a good dad duty.
And I don't need to hear the kids screaming in the background. We're football guys here. We're trying to break down X's and O's.
K's a real football guy.
So the Panthers have no shot.
No.
Like, this guy's covering the Panthers. He's just like, yeah, dude, I can't even think of anything.
No, I can't think of it. And again, it's why we should expect this team to put up a comfortable game.
Yeah.
And we should expect nothing less.
Absolutely.
If this comes in, if it ends up 27-20 and it's tied late in the third quarter or fourth quarter, again, that should not happen.
Not a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
It should not happen.
Should not happen. Real quick, I just saw a tweet from our old buddy Zach Berman.
What's up, Zach?
This is really cool. You know, Jalen Hurts is an awesome individual. He's going to host patients from CHOP this weekend.
He went and visited the night before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
By the way, without telling the media, come follow me.
Right.
People
which
exposed.
I know.
He is a good dude.
But it looks like he's going to have some people from CHOP at the Eagles-Panthers game. So that's really cool of Jalen Hurts to do that. He's an incredible human being.
He really is. He's everything you want in a face of a franchise.
Yeah, I know he's been a hot button topic in terms of quarterback play, but the human being, man, you got to love him. All right, coming up next, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3, and then, of course, our final thoughts before this Sunday's game against the Panthers. All coming your way next here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Eagles running back Saquon Barkley.
Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic. It is a football Friday. The Mike Missanelli Show coming your way at 10 o'clock with Bill Colarulo and Ray Dunn. Is there any chance, I got to ask, any chance that Bill gives any sort of trap game discussion today?
No.
I'm asking.
I don't know. When you're on a fence, about a fence.
No, I don't think he's been fenced up this week.
It's Billy Colarulo and Mike.
I do love that jingle.
Mike does not have fences. Mike Missanelli is the epitome of the electric fence. So you just don't even know where it is. You never know where Mikey's going. Bill, on the other hand, he's been a little too fancy.
Now, I have not seen. Bill usually puts out a tweet right before the show of like statistics, and then they end up discussing it.
Beware of Carolina.
He has not tweeted anything today. So that means he must. This must be
I think
around.
Bill's even in all on this one going, yeah, it's done.
Yeah, this one's.
It's done.
There's no shot that the
By the
Panthers
way,
will
this
win.
would be the worst in your face. If we lose on Sunday, we're going to be embarrassed.
Stop. It's
about
not,
what.
Well, yeah,
I
sure,
understand.
but it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
I don't believe it's going to happen either.
Not happen.
But
Not
it would be
happening.
embarrassing.
All right.
I didn't think we'd lose last year to the Cardinals.
Yeah, but this team's
this
worse.
team, yeah, it's not even close.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, it's time now for the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show, brought to us by Von C Brewing.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
Johnny, good morning. We made it through another week.
We did 4 hours and 15 minutes of sleep, and I'm not bouncing off the walls happy like I've been all week long.
You said you're not jumping around as much as normal.
No, because I do realize that the best team doesn't always win. And I saw things last night that says to me the Eagles could be fine in the matchup, and I saw some things last night that made me say if the Eagles have to go to Detroit, it could be a big problem. So it's like I'm sitting here today like a Libra with the scales going up and down.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out where I stand on it. But last night was a bit disconcerting.
Okay,
As
so
an Eagles fan, there's reason that last night should give you a little bit of an uneasy feeling.
our question today, and again, we don't do the show before the show. I just jot down the show sheet, and then we pop on the air.
This is why we don't do the show.
The question is, how are you feeling about the Eagles matching up with the Lions in a conference championship game? And at this point, it'll be more likely in Detroit. Like, how are you feeling with the Eagles matching up with the Detroit Lions? And I don't know.
I'm flipping a coin.
I have not, I don't feel any different today. Other than, all right, pack your bags, go to Detroit. Like, that's the only thing I feel different about today is that it's going to be in Detroit, and the chances of it being in Philadelphia are very, very slim.
You need 7 things to happen.
Right, very slim.
So, I mean, you need 7 things to happen. Probability would tell you what Connor just said.
Yeah.
It's probably
It's going to be in Detroit if the two teams face off. And
but it's
if
not
the two
all
teams
bad.
face off, I think they match up really well. They're very similar. Offensive lines are their strengths. Running game is their strength. Game manager, quarterback that tries to do as much as they can to not make mistakes. And Jalen Hurts makes less mistakes than Jared Goff. And then the defense, honestly, the Eagles get the leg up because of all the injuries to the Lions. If we're going full roster, it's still the Lions because Aiden Hutchinson's a freak, but they don't have Aiden Hutchinson.
The Lions' defense right now, I don't believe, sniffs the Eagles.
No, it does not. John, I told you if they beat the Rams and handled their way the way that they did handle themselves against the Rams, that I would put them on the same tier as the Lions because Jared Goff and Matt Stafford very comparable in terms of lack of mobility. Obviously, Matt Stafford has a stronger arm and Jared Goff is having a better season, but they're kind of like statues back there. Kyron Williams, they slowed him down. I imagine they could slow down Gibbs and Montgomery like they slowed down Derrick Henry. And then the receiving core, I saw them keep Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp at bay. Why can't they do that against Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams?
Because I don't believe when you're playing Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua that you had the same double threats in the running game. This is the most complete team you have to shut down, and I think that includes the Eagles.
Then what about the Ravens last week? They shut down Lamar, Derrick Henry.
They did.
Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman.
I don't consider the Ravens the Lions.
No, I
just don't.
understand, but
I don't. No, but I mean, I don't. And as far as Baltimore, I don't consider playing in Baltimore, playing in Detroit in that dome.
Okay.
That place was, as they said, it was an airplane taking off.
I heard Al Michaels
They were talking
say
about
that.
The sound meter in the stadium was showing them an airplane taking off while every single time it got exciting.
Well, if there's any
any
quarterback that could probably keep himself calm in a building like that, it's probably Jalen Hurts.
It's communication.
That guy's not human. Well, I saw Goff throw a horrible interception yesterday.
Which, by the way, I told you guys yesterday, I believed it. I still believe it, that Jalen Hurts of the 4 top quarterbacks of the top 4 seeds in the NFL is the least likely to throw an interception in a big moment in a game in the playoffs. I've said it since the summer.
I know you have.
They're going to be in the NFC title game. But last night, I heard people going, yeah, man, Eagles will beat both these teams. And I'm like, dude, there's a lot of things, and I made a list, like the naughty and nice list. There's things that made me say Lions are vulnerable, and there's things that made me say the Eagles do not want to play that game in Detroit.
All right, that is the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. 3 best minutes from today's show, brought to us by our friends at Von C. Brewing Company in Norristown. Check out their Key 3. The OG Pills Legendary Philly Lager, which is a gold medal winner at the 2023 World Beer Cup for the best American Pilsner. They both have a gold medal. Von C and Joel Embiid. Walking on Clouds, the Von C's flagship hazy IPA, and Johnny.
But unlike Joel Embiid, Von C is there to drink every day. Vienna Lager is fantastic with their all German ingredients. You have to get to Vienna. If you can't get to Vienna, get to Norristown. Go to VonCBrewing.com. And by the way, people coming into Von C Brewing and doing German John,
awesome, isn't it?
It absolutely made my day.
That's really
cool. Absolutely made my day.
Weird that the Sixers are playing the Magic again tonight at home.
It's just dumb.
Back-to-back home. I don't remember ever seeing that other than the playoffs.
The NBA's having some
I don't know
minor, but no, they're having minor bumps in the road here that are a little more than minor and
absolutely
eroding viewership.
Well, I don't think this is it's just weird. I've never seen it.
But I think this is less likely for people to want to. You go to games. It's like, wait a minute, going to go see the Magic twice in a week?
Yeah,
it's not a playoff series.
I just want the Sixers to win a basketball game, but unfortunately, they will be without Joel Embiid tonight.
That's a shocker.
Now,
That should have been the breaking news sounder.
If Paul George played in the last game, I think they would have won.
Yeah,
so they would have.
Take the Sixers.
Yeah, I would think they would.
So the Sixers are going to win tonight, Johnny.
Let's hope it happens that way.
Record.
I'll be down in the borough for the Christmas parade.
You enjoy yourself, my man.
With the Master of Ceremonies, Adam Joseph from Channel 6.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
How about it?
That's a good gig for Adam.
Oh, yeah. Hey. I'm sorry, Connor. Good job. Prediction, Eagles cover. I don't have a score. 31 to 7.
37-17.
I've got 35-13 Panthers.
I don't see the
Eagles.
I don't see the Panthers getting in the end zone twice unless it's a
garbage.
Wow.
Yeah, that's 1 to 2 field goals.
They stink.
Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Right. Join us and our generous partners, Davis CPA Group. Ron Davis, been hanging out in Key West. Make a donation to the AACR, the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives.
Everybody have a great, great, great weekend. We got Eagles-Panthers Sunday at 1 o'clock.
What time?
Pre-game show will begin at 10, a little shortened edition because the Sixers play at 1 o'clock on Sunday. But we got the pre-game show on Sunday. Nice miss. But... Brick, you are so bad.
I only had 2 misses today.
Kincade from downtown. Shield your heads.
We'll be back at it Monday.